Chapter 1722. The Bloodline Phenomenon, Creation Qinglian, Shattered. Although the power of the 9 peerless divine powers was expended, it could still be condensed and suppressed. Qinglian's true body was in immense danger as well. He no longer had any methods that could take the 9 peerless divine powers head-on. Su Zimo waved his 6 arms and channeled his blood qi to its limits. 6 Dharma treasures shone with resplendent lights in his palms. Bang, bang, bang. A deafening bang shook the world. Blood mists burst forth from Su Zimo's body. A long saber artifact in his hand was broken into pieces by a peerless spell. The tremendous force blasted his arm into a bloody mist. Immediately after, his other arm exploded as well. Blood spewed out. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's 2 heads and 4 arms were destroyed by the overwhelming peerless divine powers. Even 4 of his Dharma treasures were destroyed. Right now, Su Zimo only had the Human Emperor's seal and the Creation Lotus platform left. His 3 heads and 6 arms were destroyed by the 9 peerless divine powers. However, there were still 3 of the 9 peerless divine powers left. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo withdrew a long scroll from his robes and opened it. It was filled with blood words. The Human Emperor's Decree. There was not much power left in the Human Emperor's Decree. However, this decree was written personally by the Human Emperor using the Human Emperor's brush and soaked in the blood of the emperors. There was still some power left. Su Zimo opened the Human Emperor's decree and enveloped himself. The moment he was done, the remaining 3 peerless divine powers descended. Boom! The void seemed to have frozen. Immediately after, a faint cracking sound could be heard in midair. Cracks began to appear on the Human Emperor's decree. Then, the decree of the Human Emperor shattered with a bang, turning into pieces of dust that drifted in all directions like snowflakes. The final item left for Su Zimo by the ancient Human Emperor was also shattered by the 9 emperors of the primordial races in this battle. Even with the protection of the Human Emperor's decree, Su Zimo's Qinglian true body suffered a great impact. Bang! Su Zimo was like a meteor as he crashed heavily into the ground, creating a huge crater. Su Zimo struggled to stand up from the pit. He felt as if his bones and tendons were about to break, and the pain was unbearable. Qinglian's true body was severely injured. At this moment, he could still circulate the endless vitality. However, the power of endless vitality was far from what it had been at the beginning. The speed at which it healed Qinglian's true body was also much slower. If Su Zimo was given 2 to 4 hours, he might be able to recover to his peak. However, the 9 primordial race sovereigns had already attacked again. Not to mention 2 to 4 hours, the primordial 9 sovereigns would not even leave a breath or 2 for him. Qinglian's true body panted heavily. With every breath, his mouth and nose were filled with a thick stench of blood. He no longer had any trump cards. Carrying the damaged Qinglian's true body, he could not defend against the attacks of the primordial 9 sovereigns with just the Human Emperor's seal and Creation Lotus platform. Of course, at that moment, he could still release a secret skill, the Kacharati Dao Fire. However, the power of the Kacharati Dao Fire could only be considered as a great divine power at most. Even if he released it, it would not affect anything. A hint of dimness flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. Qinglian's true body was in a desperate situation as well. However, Wu Dao's true body still did not sense anything. Boom! Right then, another loud bang sounded not far away. It was the Shadowless Emperor's peerless divine power, Phantom Slash. For the Dragon Phoenix true body, it was not difficult for it to distinguish the true body of the Shadowless Emperor among the dozens of figures. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body was already at the end of his rope, he cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness all year round, and his spirit perception was still present. Almost instinctively, the Dragon Phoenix true body locked onto the Shadowless Emperor's true body. However, the Dragon Phoenix true body was trapped in the boundless sea of blood, and the Dragon Phoenix flames on his body were almost extinguished. His blood qi was weak, and there was no way he could defend against this peerless divine power. Phantom Slash condensed a cold beam of light and slashed towards the glabella of the dragon phoenix true body. All of a sudden, a thumb-sized tripod flew out from the glabella of the dragon phoenix true body and expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it was a bronze four-legged tripod that was 5 feet tall with an ancient aura and distinct edges. However, the bronze square tripod was clearly a piece of trash. It was filled with cracks and there was no dermic power or divine power revolving around it. Although the bronze square tripod was considered as the destiny dermic weapon of the dragon phoenix true body, in reality, he had not been able to refine it successfully. That was the reason why the dragon phoenix true body rarely used the bronze square tripod even in battles all these years. Even if he did, he could not release any dermic arts or divine powers with the help of the bronze square tripod. At most, he could only use the tripod to smash his opponents. Be it dermic powers or divine powers, it was difficult to refine the bronze square tripod. All these years, the dragon phoenix true body had searched for countless treasures to try and repair the bronze square tripod. However, all his attempts ended in failure. No matter what methods the dragon phoenix true body used, he could not melt the bronze square tripod, let alone fuse those treasures into it. There was no way he could refine it, let alone repair it. The origin of the bronze square tripod was still a mystery. Even the astral dragon emperor who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years in Tianhuang mainland could not tell the origin of the tripod. Now that his life was on the line, the dragon phoenix true body could only summon the bronze square tripod to try and defend against the phantom slash. Fufu, Araki Takashi, there's nothing you can do to end up in this state. The shadowless emperor sneered. The bronze tripod was full of cracks and was a piece of junk. Even a powerful dermic treasure would not be able to defend against the power of a divine power. How dare you take out such a piece of junk? I'll break it with one strike. The shadowless emperor shouted. The phantom slash landed heavily on the bronze square tripod. Clang. There was an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing. The nether witch emperor, the blood emperor, and even the shadowless emperor frowned and gasped. The shadowless emperor trembled and took a few steps back in midair. His face turned pale. His exceptional divine ability landed on this bronze square cauldron that was covered in cracks, but it was actually completely dissolved. Not a single trace of killing intent landed on the dragon phoenix true body. Of course, the bronze square tripod was also sent flying. It fell into the blood sea and remained motionless. The blood sea surged and even drowned the dragon phoenix true body, extinguishing the dragon phoenix flames. However, there was no blood around the bronze square tripod. The blood sea surged around the tripod and dispersed, forming a vacuum. That's a treasure. The nether witch emperor, the blood emperor, and the shadowless emperor's eyes lit up at the same time. Let's kill the dragon phoenix true body first. The nether witch emperor reminded them. The blood emperor and the shadowless emperor knew what was more important. They gathered their thoughts and charged toward the dragon phoenix true body again. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's 2 true bodies and the night spirit were in a desperate situation. The situation had collapsed. Read the latest chapter of the Eternal Sage King's Claw Book House for free. Chapter 1723. Within the Boundless Blood Sea. The dragon phoenix true body was trapped within and could barely defend against the attacks of the shadowless emperor. There was no way he could escape. However, the longer he stayed in the blood sea, the more affected the dragon phoenix true body was by the tainted power of the blood sea. Initially, his body was still burning with dragon phoenix flames. But now, the dragon phoenix flames were completely extinguished. As the Blood Emperor refined the bloodlines on the battlefield, he channeled the boundless blood sea, causing it to grow stronger. Not only did the tainted power of evil in the blood sea extinguish the dragon phoenix flames, it even began to corrode the dragon phoenix scales and seep into his bloodline. The blood chi of the dragon phoenix true body weakened. In melee combat, he could no longer defend against the attacks of the shadowless emperor and the wounds on his body increased. More importantly, the 5 ghosts of the underworld witch emperor were stuck to his body the entire time, gnawing at his flesh and life force. The Dragon Phoenix true body was already at his limit to deal with the shadowless emperor in the boundless blood sea. He could not break free from the five ghosts at all. The five ghosts were not only devouring life force, flesh and blood, but also lifespan. Unknowingly, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already lost 100,000 years of lifespan in this short period of time. Even if the Dragon Phoenix was a taboo with a lifespan of hundreds of thousands of years, he could not withstand the speed of depletion. However, he was powerless to stop it. He had already used up all his trump cards. His defeat was already set in stone. Not far away, Night Spirit burned his lifespan, but he could not break free from the pursuit of the Golden Crow Fire Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor. Against the attacks of the two top-notch emperors, Night Spirit's injuries worsened and his blood chi began to weaken as well. His movement technique was no longer as agile as before. It was only a matter of time before Night Spirit died. The situation of Qinglian's true body was even more tragic. After being surrounded by the 9 emperors of the primordial races and losing 3 heads and 6 arms, Qinglian's true body was almost shattered and could die at any moment. Was he going to lose? If he lost this battle, he would not be the one to die. The storyteller old man would die. The emperors of the dragons, Kuan and barbarians would die. The emperors of the human race would die. At the borders of the North region, all the cultivators who fought the 8 demon regions and primordial 6 races would not be able to escape the fate of death. The humans of Tianhuang mainland were either exterminated or enslaved. He could not afford to lose. He could not afford to lose this battle. Even if Wu Dao's true body successfully exited seclusion and returned from cultivation, he would be filled with regret when he saw the destruction of the human race in Tianhuang mainland. At that time, all of his old friends had already died. Without Yao Xue, Little Fatty, Lin Xuanji, Demoness Ji and Ming Zhen, what was the point even if Wu Dao's main body was still alive? The 5 ghosts devils kept tearing at the flesh of the Dragon Phoenix true body, swallowing it in large mouthfuls. They looked excited, and their eyes shone with a faint green light. The Dragon Phoenix true body had been bitten until it was dripping with blood. It was a tragic sight. He was already numb to this pain. The Dragon Phoenix true body fell into a wonderful state as it sensed its lifespan depletion process. If he could learn another technique, he would be able to get out of this situation. As long as there was enough time, the Dragon Phoenix true body had many great divine abilities that could be cultivated to the level of exceptional divine abilities. Over the years, the Dragon Phoenix true body had also tried to cultivate many great divine abilities. Among them, apart from the Six Fangs divine power, the one he cultivated the most was Time Saber. The Dragon Phoenix true body had already cultivated Baron at the Void Reversion realm. The essence of Baron was the power of time. Furthermore, he had once obtained the inheritance of half-martial ancestor instant in the stone statue cemetery of the Dao inheritance ground. That was also a power of time. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body had come into contact with the power of time for a long time, the power of time was way too mysterious and was the hardest to figure out. The passage of time was everywhere. The cycle of life and death was time. Spring and autumn were time. The rise and fall of the sun were time. The vicissitudes of life were also time. Time was like a saber that pressed on. Time was everywhere but difficult to capture. Although the Dragon Phoenix true body knew Baron and could condense the Time Saber, he could not advance the Time Saber to the level of a peerless divine ability for the past 1,000 years. The most important reason was that he could not truly sense the power of time. He had only cultivated for a few thousand years up till this point. For the taboo Dragon Phoenix that had lived for hundreds of thousands of years, he was like a child who knew nothing about the passage of time or the vicissitudes of life. But now, in this tragic battle, the underworld which Emperor's 5 ghosts fiend curse made the Dragon Phoenix true body deeply feel the cruelty of time. Just now, he had lost 100,000 years of lifespan. In this short period of time, the 5 ghosts fiends gnawed on his flesh and he lost another 100,000 years of lifespan. 200,000 years of lifespan had disappeared. This was a feeling that he had never experienced before. A mysterious feeling rose in the heart of the Dragon Phoenix true body as he entered an epiphany. At that moment, he had a new understanding and comprehension of the power of time. For the past 1,000 years, he seemed to have an answer to all the questions he had encountered regarding time. In the boundless blood sea, the eyes of the dragon phoenix true body were actually closed. Against the melee combat of the shadowless emperor, he relied entirely on his spirit perception and instincts to fight. At the same time, a mysterious energy fluctuation spread from the body of the dragon phoenix true body. It was extremely obscure and grew stronger. How dare you close your eyes? The shadowless emperor felt that he had been greatly provoked and humiliated, and his attacks became even more ferocious. However, the power of the dragon phoenix true body seemed to be getting stronger and stronger, and it completely neutralized his attacks. What's going on? The blood emperor suddenly frowned as he realized that something was amiss. The filthy energy in the blood sea could not seep into the dragon phoenix true body's body and bloodline. It seemed to have encountered a great resistance. The underworld witch emperor also seemed to have sensed something, and his expression changed. In his senses, although the 5 ghosts and fiends were still gnawing on the dragon phoenix true body's flesh and blood, the dragon phoenix true body's lifespan was no longer decreasing. At that moment, the underworld witch emperor felt an obscure energy fluctuation. The underworld witch emperor suddenly opened his eyes wide, and his expression changed drastically. He exclaimed, "An exceptional superpower." What? The blood emperor instinctively asked. "Quick, hurry and stop him." The underworld witch emperor screamed as he pointed at the dragon phoenix true body and shouted, "He is comprehending an exceptional superpower. We can't let him continue to comprehend it." There was one more thing that the underworld witch emperor did not have time to say. There were strong and weak exceptional superpowers. Weak exceptional superpowers, such as heaven and earth in one's sleeves, did not have much killing power and were not much of a threat to them. Powerful peerless divine abilities were like the eternal human emperor's kill word art. When released by the Prometha bridge, it could directly obliterate an emperor. The underworld witch emperor felt the aura of this superpower from the dragon phoenix true body, and it made his heart palpitate. He did not know what exceptional superpower the dragon phoenix true body was comprehending. However, he was well aware that this peerless divine ability was absolutely not weaker than the kill symbol technique or the Prometha bridge. Chapter 1724. He is comprehending a superpower. The blood emperor was shocked. The dragon phoenix real body had only comprehended one superpower, and the 3 of them were already at this stage. If he comprehended another superpower, the dragon phoenix real body's combat strength would increase tremendously. The blood emperor did not know what this superpower was. However, he knew that if the dragon phoenix real body comprehended another superpower, it would be much harder for the 3 of them to kill the dragon phoenix real body. There would be many more variables in this battle. Blood sacrifice. The blood emperor did not hesitate to use the secret skill of the blood refinement demon scripture. At the same time, countless blood vines pulled out from the ground. Like thousands of spirit snakes, they rushed toward the dragon phoenix true body. Suddenly, the dragon phoenix true body opened her eyes and looked at the blood emperor with a piercing gaze. At this moment, the blood emperor felt a chill run down his spine as if he was going to die. He could even smell the scent of death. How can this be? The blood emperor looked ferocious and could not believe it. Even if the dragon phoenix real body had comprehended another superpower and his combat strength had increased tremendously, it was impossible for him to kill the blood emperor. At this moment, the claw of the dragon phoenix true body pointed at the blood emperor from across the boundless blood sea and said, "Kill me, fleeting youth." When the 4 words were said, heaven and earth fell into silence. Not to mention the 3 blood emperors, even the golden crow fire emperor, the thousand eyes emperor, and the other emperors who were engaged in the battle were shocked. Immediately after, a terrifying force landed on the blood emperor's body. The blood emperor only managed to say 1 word before he lost all signs of life. Under the watchful eyes of the emperors, the blood emperor's blood chi was depleted and the thousands of blood vines withered and turned yellow. The Blood Emperor's body had withered and shrunk countless times. He now looked like an ordinary vine. His entire body was yellow and withered. He was lying on the ground motionlessly. He was no longer breathing. All the sovereigns were aghast, and their eyes were filled with endless shock and fear. The Dark Witch Emperor and the Shadowless Emperor were not far away from the Blood Emperor, but they did not make a move. This was because it was too late. In the blink of an eye, the Blood Emperor's lifespan was exhausted, and he died. What blood refinement fiend scripture! What divine ability! What rebirth from a drop of blood! They were all useless. An emperor of the Bloodvine race who had comprehended 4 ultimate techniques and whose battle prowess was equivalent to those who had comprehended 6 ultimate techniques had died in front of the emperors in an instant. The battlefield above Dragonbone Valley even showed a strange stagnation. At this moment, many rulers who were fighting stopped. One had to know that the Blood Emperor was just an ordinary emperor who had only comprehended 2 peerless divine powers. In the last 1,000 years, the Blood Emperor suddenly rose to power. In other words, the Blood Emperor was not very old. He was not even 20,000 years old. The lifespan of a ruler from the Bloodvine race was about the same as that of a human ruler. In other words, the Blood Emperor had at least 80,000 years of life left. However, in that instant, the 80,000 years of lifespan turned into nothingness and disappeared. The Blood Emperor didn't even have the chance to react before he died. It was an instant of youth. This was a divine ability that was even more terrifying and tyrannical than the Blade of Time. Peerless divine ability. The Blood Emperor had died, but the Dark Witch Emperor, Shadowless Emperor, and the others all felt a chill. If this instant of youth just now had descended on their heads, it was very likely that one of them would have died. After the Blood Emperor died, the boundless sea of blood that trapped the Dragon Phoenix's true body naturally dissipated. An extremely vast power surged within the Dragon Phoenix's true body's body. It continuously cleansed the blood, flesh, and even the primordial spirit. He had comprehended the second ultimate technique and used the power of the technique to refine his body. The Dragon Phoenix's true body's aura continued to rise. It became more and more powerful as if there was no limit to it. The wounds on his body were also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The blood chi of the Dragon Phoenix's true body had already declined. However, under the cleansing of the body by the ultimate technique, the blood chi surged. His body was once again filled with powerful vitality. Bang, bang, bang. The 5 ghosts and demons that were lying on the Dragon Phoenix's true body's body were shattered by the ultimate technique released by the Dragon Phoenix's true body. This also completely awakened the Dark Witch Emperor. Don't just stand there. Hurry up and finish off the deity and Qinglian true body. The Dark Witch Emperor quickly commanded the primordial race emperors around him and shouted, "Shadowless, and I can still hold off this Dragon Phoenix for a while." The emperors reacted one after another. The battle between the emperors broke out again. At this moment, only the Dark Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor were left opposite the Dragon Phoenix's true body. Shadowless Emperor looked at the Dragon Phoenix's true body with fear in his eyes. "Shadowless, don't worry," the Dark Witch Emperor said in a low voice. "Although this ultimate technique is terrifying, he can't release a second one in such a short time." The Shadowless Emperor took a deep breath and calmed down. The Dark Witch Emperor continued, "We only need to hold him back. Let the Golden Crow Fire Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor finish off the deity and wait for Qinglian true body to die. When that happens, with so many emperors joining forces, no matter how strong this Dragon Phoenix is, he will die here." Ha! The Dragon Phoenix laughed loudly. Flames burned all over his body again, and he shouted, "Dark Witch, Shadowless, do you think you can hold me back with just the 2 of you? Hand over your life." The golden and red wings behind the Dragon Phoenix's true body flapped, and he crossed the space and landed in front of the Shadowless Emperor. He reached out with his huge claws and grabbed at the Shadowless Emperor's head. Nether Blood Shield. The Shadowless Emperor was shocked. Without thinking, he hurriedly activated his primordial spirit and formed this ultimate technique from the blood refinement fiend scripture. Above his head, a shield condensed from blood appeared. Blood light surged on the surface of the shield, and a strange blood face appeared vaguely. "Humph." The dragon phoenix true body said coldly, "How dare you come out?" The dragon phoenix's claws shone with a cold light. The dragon phoenix flames surged and stabbed into the nether blood shield. The dragon phoenix's claws instantly tore the blood face apart. Sizzle! The dragon phoenix's flames burned the blood, and thick smoke rose. In the next instant, the nether blood shield was pierced through by the dragon phoenix's claws. The emperors who saw this were shocked. Even an ultimate technique could not block the dragon phoenix true body's power. Rip. The dragon phoenix's claws landed and tore the shadowless emperor's lower body in half. Blood flowed out, and countless organs spilled out. However, the shadowless emperor had already disappeared from the dragon phoenix's claws. The energy wave of an ultimate technique lingered where he had been. Teleport. The shadowless emperor had used his ultimate technique to teleport away at the brink of death. Only then did he escape from the dragon phoenix's claws. Just now, if he had been half a step slower, he would have died. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 1725. In the distant sky, a ripple appeared in the space. The shadowless emperor dragged his broken body and teleported out of the dragon phoenix's palm, revealing himself. The shadowless emperor's face was pale as he hurriedly circulated blood reincarnation to reform his lower body. Even so, he was scared out of his wits. The taboo dragon phoenix had comprehended two peerless divine powers and could release such terrifying power. Although he had comprehended 4 peerless divine powers and his combat strength was at its peak, he could no longer defend against the taboo dragon phoenix with just 1 peerless divine power. The emperors were shocked when they saw that. The Blood Emperor was dead and the Shadowless Emperor escaped death. As for the Dragon Phoenix, her combat strength increased exponentially with a torrential aura. The situation changed instantly. After all, the Blood Emperor was a top-notch emperor. The death of the Blood Emperor was a huge loss for the primordial 6 races. The direction of this battle would even affect the situation between the other emperors. On the side of the human emperors, the morale of the storyteller Old Man, Long Ran, and the others was boosted. With the help of Shura Yen Beichen, although the number of emperors was insufficient, the situation was stabilized and there were even signs of a counterattack. On the other side, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor were initially working together to fight against the Night Spirit. However, the Blood Emperor was dead and the Taboo Dragon Phoenix had comprehended a second divine power. The Dark Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor alone could not defend against the Taboo Dragon Phoenix's attacks. "I'll help them. I'll leave this divine puppet to you." The Thousand-Eyed Emperor made a decision immediately. The Taboo Divine Puppet was severely injured and the Golden Crow Fire Emperor alone was enough. That way, he could join forces with the Shadowless Emperor and Dark Witch Emperor to fight against the Taboo Dragon Phoenix. "Don't worry, leave this beast to me," the Golden Crow Fire Emperor said coldly. The Thousand-Eyed Emperor appeared on the other side in a flash and joined forces with the Shadowless Emperor and Dark Witch Emperor to surround the Dragon Phoenix's true body. Eye of Destruction. The heavenly eye on the Thousand-Eyed Emperor's glabella opened. It was pitch black and filled with an aura of death. At the same time, the Thousand-Eyed Emperor's eyes turned black as well. With the heavenly eye as the main and the other 2 as support, they formed 3 gigantic black holes in midair. These 3 black holes were like 3 black scorching suns. They were filled with an extremely terrifying aura as if they were going to destroy everything. Only those with the bloodline of the Heavenly Eye clan could cultivate the Eye of Annihilation. During the convention of the myriad races, the Black Pupil Emperor had once used this ultimate divine power on the Eternal Human Emperor. However, the Primordial Human Emperor used his peerless divine ability, the Permitha Bridge, to smash it into pieces and kill it. 3 pitch-black beams of light shot out from the 3 black holes, converging into a single point in midair, condensing into an even more terrifying pitch-black beam of light. The power emitted by this light beam seemed to be able to destroy everything. The power of that pitch-black beam of light contained almost all the mystic powers and Tao arts of the Heavenly Eye race. In fact, it even contained the blood chi of the Heavenly Eye race, It was extremely terrifying. The Eye of Annihilation could be called the Eye of Annihilation because of the primordial spirit attack. This was no longer a simple eye technique. At the same time, a powerful aura spread out from Shadowless Emperor's body. Gudong gudong. A strange sound came from Shadowless Emperor's body. It sounded like boiling water. There was no water in Shadowless Emperor's body. This was the sound of his blood boiling. Shadowless Emperor's body surged with blood chi, and his eyes were bloodshot. He pointed at the Dragon Phoenix true body and shouted, "Blood-boiling spear." The boiling blood in his body rapidly condensed into a gigantic crimson spear in midair. This spear was like an iron spear that had been burned red. It emitted a scorching heat. This was the ultimate divine power of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The Dragon Phoenix true body sensed an extremely evil aura from this blood-boiling spear. When this ultimate divine power was released, Shadowless Emperor's body shook. His face turned even paler and he became much weaker. He looked a little dispirited. The blood-boiling spear was powerful, but it required half of his blood essence to condense. It consumed a lot of his blood. However, Shadowless Emperor had no choice. If he lost this battle, he would die. Burning curse. At the same time, Underworld Witch Emperor activated his primordial spirit and released another ultimate divine power. One ultimate divine power alone could no longer suppress the forbidden Dragon Phoenix. They only had a chance if the three of them worked together. The three of them did not hold back. Underworld Witch Emperor would not use this burning curse easily. Releasing this ultimate divine power was to burn his primordial spirit. Burning his primordial spirit to condense Witch Fire to burn his opponent. Witch Fire not only burned the physical body, but also the bloodline and 3 souls. A fist-sized ball of dark green flame appeared on Underworld Witch Emperor's bone staff and floated toward the Dragon Phoenix true body. The Eye of Destruction, blood-boiling spear, and burning curse descended at the same time. The Dragon Phoenix true body roared into the sky. Blood chi surged, and the scales on his body burned with raging flames and shone with resplendent light. Underworld Witch Emperor and the other 2 frowned in pain. Not to mention the 3 of them, even the rulers who were far away trembled. This was the true forbidden roar. The Dragon Phoenix true body soared into the sky. 2 pairs of huge golden and red wings flapped behind him. The claws under his abdomen were ferocious and sharp. His eyes were like torches, and his blood chi surged into the sky. Under the forbidden roar and the forbidden bloodline, all living beings of the 10,000 races felt a fear that came from the depths of their souls. The Eye of Destruction's pitch-black beam was the first to descend. The Dragon Phoenix true body did not dodge. Instead, he channeled his 6 fangs divine power and the strength in his body surged as he charged straight at the pitch-black beam of light. Many emperors were shocked when they saw this scene from the corner of their eyes. Perhaps only the forbidden Dragon Phoenix had the ability to withstand a peerless divine power with his body. Boom! There was a loud bang. The Dragon Phoenix true body slammed into the pitch-black beam of light, causing it to crack and nearly collapse. Even the Eye of Destruction was unable to destroy the forbidden bloodline. The spirit consciousness attack contained in the Eye of Destruction was devoured by the blazing ball of light the moment it entered the Dragon Phoenix true body's consciousness, leaving no trace behind. The thousand-eyed emperor channeled his essence spirit frantically. Blood even seeped out of his 3 eyes as he tried his best to condense the pitch-black beam of light. At that moment, the blood-boiling spear descended. The Dragon Phoenix true body was fearless. As he resisted the power of the Eye of Destruction, he extended his gigantic and menacing Dragon Phoenix claws to grab the blood-boiling spear. Boom! The blood-boiling spear collided with the Dragon Phoenix claws with a loud bang. The Dragon Phoenix claws exerted strength and gripped the blood-boiling spear tightly. Green smoke even rose from his palms. The Dragon Phoenix true body had no intention of letting go. The Shadowless Emperor was shocked. The blood-boiling spear was even showing signs of escaping his control. The Shadowless Emperor hurriedly channeled his essence spirit and wrestled with the Dragon Phoenix true body across the void for control of the blood-boiling spear. On the other side, the dark green witch fire formed by the burning incantation floated over. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 1726. Although the witch fire was only the size of a fist and looked like it could be extinguished by a gust of wind, its might was extremely terrifying and could not be underestimated. The witch fire drifted over at an unhurried speed. Behind this ball of shaman fire was an empty space. This space had been refined into nothingness by the shaman fire. The dragon phoenix true body blocked the eye of destruction and grabbed the blood-boiling spear. Suddenly, it turned around and opened its mouth, spitting out a scorching flame. By the time the flame arrived in midair, it had already turned into scarlet lava that scattered towards the witch fire. Sizzle! The two flames collided in midair with an ear-piercing sound. The underworld witch emperor and the other two had grim expressions. Even though the three of them joined forces and released 3 supreme divine powers, they could not suppress the dragon phoenix true body. On the contrary, the aura of the dragon phoenix true body was still rising continuously after blocking the 3 supreme divine powers, as though there was no upper limit. The dragon phoenix that had comprehended 2 supreme divine powers was truly way too terrifying. On the other side, Qinglian's true body was in an increasingly dangerous situation. Against the combined attacks of the 9 emperors of the primordial races, Qinglian's true body could not recover its power of blood qi and essence spirit even with its endless vitality. Qinglian's true body was battered and riddled with injuries. It was on the verge of collapse. The 9 emperors realized that the underworld witch emperor was in a predicament and their attacks became even more ferocious. Divine Kingdom in Palm. Eye of the Storm. Phantom Slash. Boundless Blood Sea. The 9 rulers of the primordial races released peerless divine powers once more, prepared to kill the Green Lotus true body completely with this attack. Su Zimo stood there and looked at the 9 supreme divine powers that descended with a calm expression. There was no hint of panic in his eyes. All of a sudden, Su Zimo extended his bloodied hands and conjured hand seals to activate his essence spirit. Swoosh! Suddenly, 3 balls of flames of different colors appeared beside him. Scarlet Immortal Dao Fire. Golden Buddhist Dao Fire. Black Fiend Dao Fire. The 3 balls of flames began to emit the aura of divine powers. This kind of Dao flame, Su Zimo had already cultivated it to the level of a small sacred art. Samadhi Dao Fire? How dare you use such a small trick to embarrass yourself? A Protoss emperor sneered. Although the Samadhi Dao fire was powerful, it was nothing in the eyes of an emperor. 3 balls of Dao fire quickly condensed in front of Su Zimo, forming a 3-colored flame. Then, another ball of primordial spirit fire floated out from between Su Zimo's eyebrows and entered the 3-colored flame. The Kacharati Dao fire was formed. From Samadhi to Quaternary, although there was only one more flame, it was a qualitative change. The aura of the flame increased greatly, and it transformed from a minor divine ability to a major divine ability. Ha! A Golden Crow Emperor laughed out loud. So it's a great divine ability. What kind of incredible technique did I use back then? The limit of the Kacharati Dao fire was indeed only a great abhijna. Therefore, he had not released the Kacharati Dao fire from the beginning of the battle. In a battle of this level, other than an unconventional great divine ability like the Time Saber, other great divine abilities could not pose a threat to the emperors present. The other emperors sneered as well. Su Zimo did not laugh. However, he naturally would not release the Kacharati Dao fire of a great divine ability. But now he was not alone. His other true body was not far away. There was also an extremely terrifying supreme flame on the Dragon Phoenix true body, the Dragon Phoenix flames. There was no need to communicate through voice transmission. The 2 true bodies were connected mentally. With a single thought from Su Zimo, the Dragon Phoenix true body already knew of his plan. The Dragon Phoenix true body blocked the 3 peerless divine abilities. At the same time, his gigantic phoenix tail swung and condensed a ball of essence fire of the Dragon Phoenix flames. It tore through the air and landed in the Kacharati Dao fire. The aura of the Kacharati Dao fire transformed instantly. A power that caused the hearts of the primordial 9 emperors to palpitate suddenly burst forth, sweeping through the 9 heavens and filling the 8 desolates. It was formed by the Kacharadi Dao fire. Su Zimo supported the ball of flames with both hands and raised it to burn the heavens. 9 peerless divine abilities descended and landed in the ball of flames. However, they could not suppress it and were all stationary, resisting the ball of flames. This power had already far surpassed the realm of great divine abilities. This was a peerless divine ability, burning the heavens and boiling the seas. Under normal circumstances, the conditions for fusing with another flame to form the Kacharadi Dao fire were extremely harsh and difficult. If the power of the flame was insufficient, it would be devoured directly by the Kacharadi Dao fire without any reaction. However, if the power of the flame was sufficient, it would require a long process to fuse with the Kacharadi Dao fire. One had to try and fuse continuously. However, the Dragon Phoenix flames were different. Firstly, the power of the Dragon Phoenix flames was strong enough. In fact, to a certain extent, the Dragon Phoenix flames were even stronger than the 3 Dao fires that Su Zimo condensed. Secondly, there would be no rejection when the Dragon Phoenix flames fused with the Kacharadi Dao fire. That was because, be it the Dragon Phoenix true body or Qinglian true body, they were both Su Zimo. The 2 true bodies were one to begin with. Although they could not figure out the divine powers and dermic arts that they had comprehended, the Dragon Phoenix flames would not reject Qinglian true body at all. Therefore, the fusion of the Dragon Phoenix flames into the Kacharadi Dao fire was a natural process. Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo had cultivated 3 true bodies. Among them, the Qinglian true body and Dragon Phoenix true body appeared at the same time in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley. They joined forces to fight against the heroes of the world and rescued the Night Spirit before escaping. However, be it the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley or this battle, the 2 true bodies were only working together. But this time round, the 2 of them were truly fusing in a certain sense. This fusion in a sense was the true terror of the 2 true bodies revealed. The primordial 9 emperors were shocked. Just now, their sneers froze on their faces as they watched everything with widened eyes. Crack, 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 crack. Against the terrifying flames, the 9 peerless divine abilities began to tremble. The God Kingdom in the palm of the Protoss Emperor began to collapse and crack. The boundless sea of blood of the Blood Vine Race's Emperor was also boiled by the terrifying flames, turning into blood chi that scattered into the world. The sea of blood evaporated rapidly and decreased. In the blink of an eye, the sea of blood turned into a blood lake. What truly shocked the primordial 9 emperors was that after Su Zimo released the peerless divine power, the body of Qinglian's true body experienced the baptism of a 3rd peerless divine power. With the help of the Dragon Phoenix flames, the Kacharadi Dao fire was condensed. Qinglian's true body comprehended the essence of burning heavens and boiling seas and comprehended a 3rd peerless divine power. The power of the peerless divine power began to cleanse the bloodline, physique and essence spirit of Qinglian's true body. The blood chi of Qinglian's true body rose rapidly. The power of her essence spirit recovered quickly as well. In such a state, Su Zimo channeled his peerless divine powers endlessly and most of his injuries healed in the blink of an eye. As for his strength, it was still rising continuously. Reader's Residence website. The head of the Emperor of the Protoss was smashed into pieces by the human Emperor's seal. The 3-headed and 6-armed attack was endless and did not give the other party any chance to catch a breather. Prior to this, Qinglian's real body had only comprehended 2 supreme divine abilities and could barely protect herself when she was surrounded. Yet now, the emperors that had besieged him had only just charged forward when they were smashed into pieces by him. Some of the emperors of the primordial races released their peerless divine abilities again, wanting to stop Su Zimo in his tracks. However, they were shattered by Su Zimo's bronze square cauldron casually. This was the suppression of strength. Breaking through all techniques with brute force. 3. Su Zimo twisted his 3 heads and waved his 6 arms. Holding the bronze square cauldron, the human emperor's seal and the creation lotus platform in his palms, He pushed forward and trampled on the corpses of the emperors of the primordial races one after another, sweeping through everything in his path. The 9 emperors of the primordial races that surrounded him initially were not weak either. They were all experts who had comprehended 3 supreme divine abilities. But now, Su Zimo had killed so many of them that there were only 3 left. Of the 3 emperors, 2 were from the Rakshasa race and 1 was from the Golden Crow race. They survived because of their agile movement techniques. The 3 emperors of the primordial races were scared out of their wits when they looked at the 3-headed, 6-armed Su Zimo that shone with a green glow. The 3 emperors of the primordial races did not dare to resist and turned to flee. Trying to escape? Su Zimo sneered and his glabella shone. A green glow burst forth and tore through the air, descending onto a Rakshasa emperor. It was the Qinglian sword formed from 72 lotus seeds. It was a killing technique that targeted the essence spirit. If it was a normal battle, the Rakshasa emperor would have maintained his composure and would not have been able to react after being struck by Qinglian's sword. But now, the Rakshasa emperor was scared out of his wits and was focused on escaping. As such, his reaction was slightly slower and Qinglian's sword pierced his consciousness, slicing his essence spirit into 2. With his terrifying movement technique and speed, the Rakshasa had already fled to the horizon. However, he suddenly paused and fell from midair, dead. The remaining 2 emperors of the primordial races had already fled without a trace. Ignoring them, Su Zimo turned around and charged towards the battlefield of the night spirit. The expressions of the underworld witch emperor and the others turned extremely terrible. So many emperors of the primordial 6 races had died one after another and 2 of them had fled. The situation was almost collapsing for them. The emperors of the primordial 6 races who were fighting against the human emperors and dragons were also flustered. Although they were still in a stalemate, all of them were pale with fear, afraid that the 3-headed, 6-armed fiend celestial would rush to their sides and kill them one by one. A hint of sadness flashed through the underworld witch emperor's eyes as he sighed internally. He knew very well that the primordial 6 races had lost this battle. Araki Takashi's 2 true bodies had already risen and the strength of the primordial 6 races could no longer suppress him. At that moment, if they continued to resist, even the few of them would die here with Araki Takashi's entanglement. On the other side, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor initially wanted to kill the Night Spirit. However, his expression changed when he caught sight of Su Zimo waving his 6 arms and charging over with a murderous aura. Not good. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor's heart skipped a beat. He knew that the current Qinglian's true body was enough to take him on alone. If Qinglian's true body joined forces with the taboo god puppet, he would definitely die. At that thought, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor flapped his wings and prepared to escape without hesitation without even bidding farewell to the underworld witch emperor and the others. All of a sudden, a cold light flashed past and directly pierced through one of his wings. Blood splattered. Ah! The Golden Crow Fire Emperor shrieked. How dare you be distracted in front of me? Night Spirit's voice sounded in the ears of the Golden Crow Fire Emperor sinisterly. Even if the taboo god puppet was severely injured, it still possessed killing methods that others could not match. Book Guest Residence Reading Website. Chapter 1728. Incinerate the heavens and boil the seas. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor did not have time to think as he channeled his essence spirit and released a peerless divine power, wanting to force the night spirit back. However, he was still slightly slower. Exclamation point! A ghostly figure had already arrived beside him. Its sharp claws pierced through his body and locked him in place. The night spirit opened its mouth and bared its menacing fangs, biting the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's neck into 2. Blood spewed out and dyed the void red. Before the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's peerless divine power could be condensed, it was interrupted by the night spirit. In reality, the reason why the night spirit was severely injured was because the Golden Crow Fire Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor had joined forces. Furthermore, the night spirit wanted to help Su Zimo and was injured by the Golden Crow Fire Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor. Right now, the Thousand-Eyed Emperor, Underworld Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor had joined forces to fight against the Dragon Phoenix true body. There was only the Golden Crow Fire Emperor left, and he could not kill the Night Spirit. On the contrary, the moment the Golden Crow Fire Emperor was distracted, the Night Spirit seized the opportunity to counterattack and nearly killed the Golden Crow Fire Emperor on the spot. Shoo! A golden crow flew out and sped into the distance. It was the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's essence spirit. His essence spirit was still in midair when it began channeling blood reincarnation to reconstruct his body. It flapped its wings in an attempt to escape from this place. However, the moment his body appeared, a person appeared in front of him. 3 heads and 6 arms, Wu Huang and Su Zimo. Bang! Su Zimo raised the bronze square tripod and smashed it down on the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's head with a ferocious aura. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor did not have the chance to react or dodge and could only escape with his essence spirit once more. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor's body was smashed into pieces by Su Zimo's bronze square cauldron once more. Su Zimo sneered, "You think you can escape when I join forces with the Night Spirit?" Either Su Zimo or Night Spirit would be able to suppress the Golden Crow Fire Emperor if they went all out. With the two of them working together, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor could only flee in all directions. There was no way out for him. His primordial spirit had just escaped and reconstructed his body. He would definitely be torn to pieces by either Su Zimo or the Night Spirit. In the span of a few breaths, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor had already reconstructed his body 4 times. His space to dodge was getting smaller and smaller. He was almost completely locked down by Su Zimo and Night Spirit. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. "Wu Huang, can you show mercy and let me live?" The Golden Crow Fire Emperor finally couldn't take it anymore and begged for mercy. Su Zimo's expression was cold and unmoved. Just now, if the Dragon Phoenix true body had not comprehended fleeting youth and Qinglian's true body had not comprehended the third supreme divine ability and rushed over in time, the Night Spirit would have died. "Imprison." Su Zimo's expression was unchanged as he waved his finger and wrote the word "imprison" in midair. Divine power spread. A strange ripple of energy appeared in midair and formed a prison, trapping the Golden Crow Fire Emperor within. This was only a great divine power. Under normal circumstances, it wouldn't be able to trap the Golden Crow Fire Emperor. However, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor only had an essence spirit left. After continuous battles and reconstructing his body, his essence spirit was extremely weak. Even with this great divine power, the Golden Crow Fire Emperor could not break free. His primordial spirit crashed into the prison. His primordial spirit trembled and emitted bursts of green smoke. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor screamed repeatedly. "Shoo!" A black beam tore through the air. Night Spirit swung its long tail and pierced into the prison, piercing the Golden Crow Fire Emperor's essence spirit. The Golden Crow Fire Emperor was dead. Up till this point of the battle, 2 of the 5 top emperors of the primordial races had already died. The remaining Underworld Witch Emperor, Shadowless Emperor and Thousand-Eyed Emperor were no longer in the mood to fight. The 3 emperors dispelled their divine powers one after another and turned to flee. On the battlefield of Dragonbone Valley, the void had already been shattered by the battle between the emperors and there was no way to leave through the void tunnel. The 3 emperors could only rely on their movement techniques to leave this place first. However, the 3 emperors had different movement techniques. Now that they were running at full speed, the gap between them was obvious. As a Rakshasa, the Shadowless Emperor was the fastest and fled to the horizon almost immediately. Unexpectedly, the Underworld Witch Emperor released a peerless divine power incantation and was shockingly fast as well, following closely behind the Shadowless Emperor. The Thousand-Eyed Emperor was the slowest and was at the back. Although the Thousand-Eyed Emperor also cultivated the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra, his blood escape technique had not been cultivated to the level of a peerless divine power. Naturally, he was at the back. "Night Spirit, stay here. Leave the Underworld Witch Emperor and the other 2 to me," Su Zimo said in a deep voice. Night Spirit's injuries were more severe. It was best for him to stay here and help the human races Huang, Shura, Yen Baichen and company without any danger. Su Zimo's two true bodies had just comprehended divine powers and their combat strength was almost at their peak. Although the Underworld Witch Emperor and the other two were a step ahead, it was only a matter of time before the two true bodies caught up. Su Zimo and his Dragon Phoenix true body chased in the direction of the Underworld Witch Emperor and the other two. The Dragon Phoenix true body had the Dragon Phoenix wings and golden wings of a great peng. His speed was shockingly fast. Although Qinglian's movement technique could not compare to the Dragon Phoenix true body, she also had many escape techniques and followed closely behind. Before long, the two true bodies closed in on the Thousand-Eyed Emperor rapidly. The Thousand-Eyed Emperor realized that he could not escape at all. If this continued, it would not be long before the two true bodies caught up to him and killed him on the spot. Araki Takashi, I'll fight it out with you. The Thousand-Eyed Emperor's eyes shone with madness as he turned around and conjured his essence spirit once more, releasing a peerless divine power. Thousand Eyes burying heaven. Poof! The heavenly eye on the Thousand-Eyed Emperor's glabella suddenly exploded. Blood spewed out as an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation burst forth. Immediately after, the Thousand-Eyed Emperor's two eyes exploded as three bloody holes appeared on his face. However, the power that emanated from the shattered heavenly eye gathered rapidly around the Thousand-Eyed Emperor. A sea of eyes appeared in the void. They were densely packed in rows and floated behind the Thousand-Eyed Emperor with their eyes wide open. Thousands of eyes widened and protruded. They were bloodshot as they glared at Su Zimo and his Dragon Phoenix true body who were charging over. Su Zimo and his Dragon Phoenix true body felt a chill run down their spines. No matter who it was being stared at by thousands of eyes, they would feel uncomfortable. Furthermore, the power of Thousand Eyes burying heaven was indeed extremely terrifying. In the ancient era, there was only a single Rakshasa emperor who managed to cultivate it. In the battle against the eternal human emperor, he even managed to injure him. The reason why Thousand Eyes burying heaven was powerful was because it required the sacrifice of all the Tao and Dharmic powers in the heavenly eye to condense this peerless divine power. It was so terrifying that it could even bury the world. One had to know that the Tao of the heavenly eye race was all in the heavenly eye at their glabella. This peerless divine power was equivalent to the Thousand-Eyed Emperor's lifetime of cultivation. Even if Su Zimo's two true bodies were buried after Thousand Eyes burying heaven was released, he would be reduced to a cripple. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1729. Buzz. Beams of light burst forth from the Thousand Eyes at the same time and descended upon Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body instantly. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body did not dare to be careless as they hurriedly channeled their blood chi to their limits to fight against Thousand Eyes burial. Boom! There was a deafening sound. 1,000 beams of light that could bury heaven and earth landed on Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body but could not bury them. However, the power of Thousand Eyes burial was extremely terrifying as well. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body did not have any peerless divine powers that they could release and could only rely on their blood chi. However, they could not break through the obstruction of the Thousand Eyes within a short period of time. Of course, given the current strength of Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body, they were still stronger than the Thousand Eyes Emperor. The eyes around the Thousand Eyes Emperor shattered one after another and turned into nothingness. However, if Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body were to destroy all the Thousand Eyes, the Underworld Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor would have escaped a long time ago. Tanhuang mainland was way too huge. Furthermore, there were other secrets. If the two top emperors were to escape and hide, who knew what sort of calamity would befall them in the future? Roar! The Dragon Phoenix true body reared its head and roared into the skies, releasing an earth-shaking roar. Immediately after, the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix true body shone with a resplendent light and burst forth with two blinding beams of light that condensed into a single point and charged towards the Shadowless Emperor. That was the Illumination Eye. The illumination eye had already evolved into the innate divine power of the dragon phoenix true body. Furthermore, the dragon phoenix true body was confident that it could cultivate the illumination eye to the level of a peerless divine power. However, right now, the illumination eye could only be considered as a great divine power. Against the power of the peerless divine power, Thousand Eyes Burial, the illumination eye was naturally nothing. However, the dragon phoenix true body wanted to break through the obstruction of the Thousand Eyes Emperor as soon as possible and released all its trump cards. Su Zimo did not hesitate either. Suddenly his eyes turned pitch black. Two dark beams of light burst forth from his eyes as well with a cold aura. They condensed into a single point and charged towards the Thousand Eyes Emperor. The serene fluorescent eyes also erupted at the same time. These two eye techniques could only be considered great mystiques. However, when the blazing light released by the illumination eye and the dark light released by the ghostly fluorescent eye collided in midair, an extremely strange energy fluctuation was produced. The power of the two ocular techniques did not strike the thousand-eyed emperor. On the contrary, while they were still in midair, the energies of the two eye bloodline techniques had already formed two balls of light, one black and one white, which were attracted to one another. The two balls of light seemed to possess some sort of spirituality. They seemed to be playing with each other, yet they were clearly separated from each other. Su Zimo's mind buzzed at the sight of that. In his perception, it was as if everything had disappeared. In his line of sight, there was only this pair of black and white light balls left. The two balls of light were constantly tugging at each other. They were like two large fishes, their heads and tails connected as they chased after each other. They were constantly rotating, forming a strange scene. Su Zimo suddenly recalled some of the legends regarding the illumination stone that the red-headed ghost had told him back then. Candlelight represented the power of the sun. Ghostly fluorescent represented the power of the moon. Under normal circumstances, these two completely different powers should have been at odds with each other and were incompatible. However, the illumination stone was in the dragon phoenix true body while the ghostly fluorescent stone was in the Qinglian true body. The two true bodies were originally one. That was the reason why these two extreme powers were able to chase after each other and form such a strange scene. Those were yin-yang Pisces that were chasing after one another. The power of the moon and sun spun slowly without any lethality. However, as the yin-yang Pisces spun, everything around them seemed to be devoured and turned into nothingness. Space collapsed, light distorted, dermic powers turned into nothingness and divine powers dissipated. Everything was gradually devoured by the yin-yang Pisces. Even time had been messed up. Su Zimo was in such a state and could not sense anything. Under the watchful gazes of many emperors, the two ocular techniques were released. As the two black and white balls of light chased each other, the thousand eyes on the other side shattered. In fact, the two black and white balls of light did not even touch the thousand eyes on the other side before the peerless divine power was turned into nothingness. Pissed, the emperors gasped when they saw that. What sort of power was that? In the face of the two black and white balls of light, the peerless divine power, Thousand Eyes Burial, could not even last a single breath before it collapsed. The yin-yang Pisces chased faster and faster. The two powers rose continuously. The power emitted by the yin-yang Pisces became increasingly terrifying as well. In the end, Su Zimo could sense that the two fish were even starting to bite each other. Su Zimo hurriedly severed the ghostly fluorescent pupil. The balance of power was broken and the yin-yang Pisces exploded on the spot, releasing an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation that swept in all directions. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Su Zimo felt a dull pain in his eyes and jolted awake. A wisp of blood flowed from the eyes of the dragon phoenix true body as well. It was a little terrifying. Su Zimo's face was pale and he felt a lingering fear. Thankfully, he severed the ghostly fluorescent pupil in time. If the two powers continued to rise, they would definitely escape his control in the end. At that time, if he was careless, his eyes would not be the ones bleeding. His two true bodies were most likely going to perish and their Tao vanish. That was not an exaggeration. That was because Su Zimo could sense an extremely terrifying power within the Yin-Yang Pisces. Just now, it was merely a tiny bit of it. Su Zimo looked over instinctively. Thousand Eyes' burial had already dissipated. In midair opposite him, the Thousand Eyes Emperor stood motionlessly with a blank expression. All of a sudden, the body of the Thousand Eyes Emperor began to collapse and gradually turned into nothingness right in front of Su Zimo. Not even a single drop of blood flowed out. The Thousand Eyes Emperor was killed by the power of the Yin-Yang Pisces explosion just now. Su Zimo took a deep breath of air and calmed himself down before continuing to chase after the Dark Witch Emperor and Shadowless Emperor with his Dragon Phoenix true body. He had to kill the two emperors or there would be endless trouble in the future. In the skies above the Dragon Bone Valley, the 5 top emperors of the Dark Witch Emperor were either dead or fleeing. Although there were many remaining emperors of the primordial 6 races, their minds were broken and they were no longer in the mood to fight. The addition of Night Spirit to the battlefield set off a bloodbath. Even though Night Spirit had only comprehended a single peerless divine power and was severely injured, the killing techniques he released were not something that the emperors of the primordial races could defend against. Before long, the emperors of the primordial 6 races broke down completely and fled in all directions while shouting. The demon emperors of the 8 demon regions were either dead or injured. Of the 17 demon emperors, less than 5 were still alive. Knowing that they could not escape, the 5 demon emperors knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. The storyteller Old Man, Long Ran and the others were covered in injuries and exhausted. They panted heavily and were no longer able to chase after the fleeing emperors of the primordial races. Nearly half of the human emperors were lost as well, leaving more than 10. However, this battle was not over yet. Chapter 1730. Su Zimo and the Dragon Phoenix true body ran all the way toward the Underworld Witch Emperor and the Shadowless Emperor. The Underworld Witch Emperor and the Shadowless Emperor were originally running in the same direction, but when they reached the border of the North region, the two emperors split up and fled in 2 different directions. The Underworld Witch Emperor's eyes flickered with ruthlessness and madness as he sped toward the habitat of the witch tribe in Middle Ground. At the same time, the Underworld Witch Emperor took out a talisman from his storage bag and tore it apart. At this point he had no choice. He had to inform the witch tribe and prepare to use their last trump card. The Shadowless Emperor did not flee to his ancestral land. He pondered for a while, then turned around and ran toward the Kunlun ruins in the west. The Shadowless Emperor's thoughts were simple. If he fled to the ancestral land, he would definitely lure Araki Takashi over. At that time, the Rakshasa guarding the ancestral land would also be annihilated. He chose to flee to the Kunlun ruins because he wanted to risk his life with Araki Takashi. The Kunlun ruins had a forbidden zone. If he had to die, he would die together. Su Zimo saw that the Underworld Witch Emperor and the Shadowless Emperor had split into 2 directions. He pondered for a while and decided to let the Dragon Phoenix true body chase after the Underworld Witch Emperor. The Underworld Witch Emperor was obviously heading toward the witch tribe's ancestral land. He wondered what other trump cards the Underworld Witch Emperor had after returning to the ancestral land. The witch tribe specialized in cultivating the primordial spirit. The primordial spirit of the Dragon Phoenix true body was protected by a blazing light ball. Any killing technique that targeted the primordial spirit would not be able to cause any harm to the Dragon Phoenix true body. In this aspect, Qinglian's true body was relatively weaker. At this point, the 2 true bodies split up and chased after the Underworld Witch Emperor and the Shadowless Emperor. Su Zimo released all his escape techniques. Ethereal wings on his back spread open. Heaven's feet, Earth's golden light, and Zephyr Thunder Palace were all unleashed. His speed reached its peak. Even so, he could not shorten the distance between him and the Shadowless Emperor. Suddenly, a violent tremor came from the far west. Dazzling golden light burst out of the entire sky above the Kunlun ruins as if it was going to break the sky. The energy fluctuation intensified and even spread through the entire Tianhuang mainland. Even the 4 regions, 3 oceans and 1 continent could sense it. Huge waves were set off in the 3 seas. The tens of thousands of living beings who were fighting at the border of the northern region were also shocked and bewildered. Only a few Protoss powerhouses looked at the golden light in the sky above the far west, deep in thought. Some of the Protoss emperors seemed to have thought of something. Their eyes lit up, and their spirits were lifted. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and looked towards the far west with a grim expression. Something unexpected happened. If his guess was correct, the movement from the far west should have come from the five-colored cave. Protoss invasion. Who would have thought that the Protoss would invade Tianhuang mainland at this critical juncture? Normally speaking, with the existence of the divine ability Forbidden Zone in the Kunlun ruins, even if the Protoss invaded, they would at most be at the body integration stage. To the current Su Zimo, they were no threat at all. However, it had been more than 1,000 years since the last great battle in the Kunlun ruins. The power of the divine ability Forbidden Zone was becoming weaker and weaker. It was very likely that the continent of gods had some method to break through the divine ability exclusion zone and enter the heavenly wasteland. If the main army of the continent of gods invaded Tianhuang mainland, the situation would be serious. The continent of gods was a powerful civilization. Although they were also one of the billions of small worlds, the Protoss's bloodline was powerful and they could cultivate a bloodline phenomenon the moment they were born. No one knew how powerful the civilization of the continent of gods was. The invasion of the continent of gods was most likely even more serious and terrifying than the combined forces of the primordial six races. More importantly, the thousands of races of Tianhuang mainland were fighting each other and suffering heavy losses. Be it the demons, humans, or the primordial races, they were all severely injured. At this moment, the invasion of the continent of gods was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire for Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo stopped and looked to the west. At that moment, he could only hope that the divine ability Forbidden Zone of the Kunlun ruins could be of some use and stop the emperors of the continent of gods. The Shadowless Emperor also stopped and did not continue escaping towards the Kunlun ruins. All of a sudden, the golden light above the Kunlun ruins burned even brighter. Immediately after, powerful auras broke through the sky and transformed into dazzling golden pillars of light that shot into the sky. Tianhuang mainland was shaken. The emperors of the continent of gods were here. Only emperors could manifest such an aura and erupt with such power fluctuations. Just as expected. Before long, a large army of Protoss appeared in the sky above the Kunlun ruins. They were densely packed and at the front were Protoss knights. They rode on warhorses. Be it warhorses or Protoss knights, they were all wearing armor. The warhorses under the Protoss were also Pegasi with powerful bloodlines. They had a sharp horn on their foreheads that seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens. There were more than 10,000 Protoss knights and they were all at the conjoint body realm. More than 10,000 conjoint body realm Protoss. If nothing went wrong, this was definitely the main force of the continent of gods. Of course, the most eye-catching thing was not the 10,000 conjoint body realm Protoss knights. In the middle of these Protoss knights were hundreds of Protoss patriarchs. Some were wearing armor and holding swords. Some were wearing long robes and holding magic staffs. However, every Protoss was extremely handsome and the women were also peerlessly beautiful. Among the hundreds of patriarchs of the god race, there were 4 emperors of the god race, 3 men and 1 woman. All of them were rather old. The 4 Protoss emperors each held different weapons. A god race sovereign held a great sword in his hand. This huge sword was the sword of misfortune that had once severely injured Su Zimo. Another emperor of the god race held a long spear that shone with golden light. It emitted an extremely terrifying aura as though it could judge everything. The third ruler held a pitch-black shield in his hand, which emitted a dark aura. The fourth emperor was holding a divine staff that was emitting a faint light. These 4 emperors each held a powerful divine weapon. They activated the power of the divine weapons and separated a passage in the divine power forbidden zone above the Kunlun ruins. The Protoss army entered Tianhuang mainland safely. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly and looked past the Protoss army. Hundreds of Protoss patriarchs landed in the middle of the 4 Protoss emperors. Be it the 10,000 conjoint body realm Protoss army, the hundreds of Protoss patriarchs, or the 4 Protoss emperors, the 4 divine weapons were not the most eye-catching. In the middle of the Protoss army, surrounded by the 4 Protoss emperors, there was a divine throne embedded with gemstones and jade. No one was holding it up below, but the divine throne floated over. Chapter 1731. In the sky above Dragon Bone Valley. A few disheveled god rulers looked at the god clan's army coming from the far west. They were all in high spirits and looked excited. They're finally here. The sword of misfortune, the shield of disaster, the staff of dawn, and the spear of judgment. The 4 divine judgment weapons of the Protoss have arrived. Let's see who can stop them. The one on the throne should be the Shenhuang of the godly mainland. The Protoss who were still fighting at the border of the northern region were even more excited. Although there were some emperors on the godly mainland with different titles, only one person was qualified to be the emperor of the godly mainland, and he was called the Shenhuang. Only the Shenhuang was qualified to sit on that supreme throne and wear the crown of Shenhuang. Legend had it that the crown of Shenhuang and the seat of Shenhuang were treasures passed down from the godly realm. Other races, including the Protoss themselves, would die on the spot if they dared to sit on the crown of Shenhuang. Even the Protoss emperors would die on the spot. Without the approval of the crown of Shenhuang, they would not be able to bear the weight of the crown and would be crushed to death. Only those who had the approval of these 2 treasures would be the only Shenhuang on the godly mainland. The civilization of the godly mainland originated from these 2 treasures passed down from the godly realm. This scene was extremely shocking. Whether it was the battle of the emperors in the sky above Dragon Bone Valley or the battle at the border of the northern region, they all gradually stopped. Shadowless Emperor paused in midair, his heart trembling. After a while, he came back to his senses. He frowned slightly and looked back hesitantly. At this moment, he was sandwiched in the middle. Su Zimo was behind him, and the Protoss army was in front of him. Moreover, the Protoss army was advancing very quickly. Before long, they had arrived at Zhongzhou and were rushing toward the northern region. Many Protoss knights galloped in the sky, stepping on the clouds. Their auras were monstrous. The entire void rumbled and trembled under the trampling of the Protoss knights. Cracks appeared in the void. Heaven and earth shook. The Shadowless Emperor thought for a while and didn't turn around. Facing Su Zimo, there was no doubt that he would die. Although the Protoss army had come with a vengeance, the Rakshasa race was still on the same side as the Protoss of Infinite Wasteland. Moreover, as a top-notch ruler, no matter which continent he was on, he was a top-notch powerhouse. If he was willing to bring the Rakshasa to join them, the Protoss would definitely welcome him. With that in mind, Shadowless Emperor made up his mind and charged toward the God Tribe army. I'm Shadowless of the Rakshasa race, one of the primordial 9 races of Tianhuang mainland along with the Protoss. We're of the same branch and have fought side by side several times. When the Shadowless Emperor was still far away from the Protoss army, he shouted, I'm willing to lead the Rakshasa race and join hands with you Protoss friends to suppress Araki Takashi and the other traitors. How shameless! Long Ran couldn't help but curse when he saw this. The powerhouses of the Kuan race and the Barbarian race were also indignant. As the most powerful ruler of Infinite Wasteland, the Shadowless Emperor was the first to submit to the foreign invaders without hesitation. The Shadowless Emperor was very smart. He knew that if he rushed forward recklessly, he would most likely attract the hostility of the Protoss army. Therefore, the Shadowless Emperor started to shout while he was still far away to express his goodwill. His attitude was sincere. As expected, the Protoss army slowed down. Before long, the Protoss army arrived in front of the Shadowless Emperor and opened a path for him to enter. In the blink of an eye, the Shadowless Emperor was surrounded by the Protoss army. Countless pairs of eyes fell on the Shadowless Emperor. As the most powerful ruler of Infinite Wasteland, the Shadowless Emperor remained calm and fearless despite being surrounded by so many powerful beings of the foreign races. Greetings, fellow Protoss friends. The Shadowless Emperor didn't show any arrogance in the face of hundreds of Protoss patriarchs. Instead, he cupped his fists and smiled. The four rulers of the Protoss patriarchs with divine judgment weapons sized up the shadowless emperor with a hint of suspicion in their eyes. However, the four Protoss patriarchs didn't show any attitude. Instead, they looked at the person on the throne with questioning looks. The shadowless emperor could see it too. Among the Protoss, the one with the highest status and the most important status was the person on the throne with the crown on his head. Even the four rulers of the Protoss patriarchs had to listen to this person. However, this person's face was obscured by the crown and couldn't be seen clearly. Shen Huang, this person has submitted. How should we deal with him? The armored elder with the sword of misfortune on his back placed his right hand on his chest and bowed slightly to the person on the throne. Shen Huang raised his hand slightly. The shadowless emperor landed on this person's palm. It was a fair hand that was soft and delicate. It even shone faintly. It seemed to be the hand of a woman. While the shadowless emperor was thinking about this, Shen Huang opened his mouth and said two words softly. "Kill him." Before the shadowless emperor could react, a loud roar came from the side. "Kill!" The armored elder pulled out the sword of misfortune from his back and swung it at shadowless emperor. Although this ruler of the Protoss patriarchs was an old man, his vitality was still extremely strong. He shot up into the sky. The sword of misfortune in the hands of this old Protoss patriarch gave off a cold and evil aura. The black patterns on the sword shone brightly, and a ray of black sword chi shot through the air. The shadowless emperor was shocked. He didn't expect that this person wouldn't give him a chance to live after he had learned 4 ultimate theurgies and was a top-tier ruler of the Protoss patriarchs. The shadowless emperor hurriedly took out his natal magic treasures. 2 crescent blades that looked like full moons blocked the sword of misfortune. Clang! There was a loud noise and sparks flew everywhere. The shadowless emperor's body shook, and he spat out blood. The crescent blades in his hands were knocked away by the sword of misfortune. His reaction was already slow, and he couldn't use his full strength. Moreover, he had just fought Su Zimo, and his vitality was severely depleted. His combat power was greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, the shadowless emperor was severely injured after taking the ruler of the Protoss patriarchs' attack head-on. Chapter 1732. Shadowless Emperor was trapped in the Protoss army, and there were still 3 Protoss emperors who had yet to attack. If he wanted to escape, he could only teleport. However, when Shadowless Emperor activated his primordial spirit, the ultimate god power dissipated before it could form. Shadowless Emperor's body shook, and his face turned pale. He had failed. He had failed to release the ultimate god power. Just as he was about to release the ultimate god power, Shadowless Emperor's primordial spirit was suddenly covered by a dark force. This power did not cause any harm to his primordial spirit. However, it cut off his connection with the ultimate god power, causing the ultimate god power to fail. How could this be? What is this? Shadowless Emperor checked the dark force attached to his primordial spirit, and his heart trembled. The unforeseen event this time had truly shocked him. Suddenly, Shadowless Emperor felt a sharp pain in his chest. He looked down instinctively. The wound on his chest showed no signs of stopping bleeding. On the contrary, the blood flowing out of his wound had turned black. The flesh on both sides of the wound had turned as black as ink. Furthermore, this black energy was following this wound and gradually spreading to his entire body. It's that sword. Shadowless Emperor's heart skipped a beat. He suddenly thought of the answer. You've been injured by the sword of misfortune, and you still want to escape? At this moment, the elder from the god race had already arrived behind Shadowless Emperor and sliced him in half with his sword. Blood and organs splattered all over the ground. Shadowless Emperor's primordial spirit was entangled by the power of misfortune and could not escape from his spiritual sea. He was killed by the sword. This top Rakshasa Emperor was killed by the old Protoss in 2 strikes just like that. In fact, if Shadowless Emperor was at his peak, he might not have died in the battle with the old Protoss. However, after the battle with Su Zimo, his combat power was less than half of his peak state. Moreover, he did not expect the Protoss to attack him. He had also underestimated the power of the sword of misfortune, which led to his death. The beings of the myriad races were also stunned when they saw this scene. The expressions of the storyteller, Long Ran, and the others became extremely unsightly. Even though they hadn't fought the old Protoss, they were able to discern that the old Protoss's combat strength wasn't inferior to the Nether Shaman Emperor and the others. Moreover, the Protoss didn't hesitate to kill the Shadowless Emperor. This showed his attitude. The Protoss might go on a killing spree in Tianhuang mainland. Even if he submitted, it would be useless. All right. Well done. The many Protoss on Tianhuang mainland were naturally energized and excited. They had been abandoned by thousands of races on planet Tianhuang and had suffered enough humiliation. Today, it was finally their turn to hold their heads high. At this moment, the Underworld Witch Emperor had already returned to the Sorcerer Tribe's ancestral land. The Nether Wizard Emperor sneered as he watched the scene from afar, and he muttered, "The continent of gods? Ha, when the time comes, I will make sure that all of you stay in Tianhuang region. From today onwards, Tianhuang region will belong to the Sorcerer Tribe." After he finished speaking, the Underworld Witch Emperor's figure flickered and entered a valley in the Sorcerer Tribe's ancestral land. There were hundreds of thousands of shamans waiting for his orders. Rifts suddenly appeared in the sky above Middle Ground. 3 Protoss Emperors above the Dragon Bone Valley took advantage of the chaos to escape. They tore through the void and descended. Some of the old ancestors of the celestial race also rushed over, looking excited. "Greetings, Your Majesty Shenhuang." The 3 Protoss Emperors were covered in wounds and in a sorry state. They passed through the heavy Protoss army and knelt in front of Shenhuang. "Your Majesty Shenhuang, you're finally here. We've been waiting for this day for too long. Your Majesty Shenhuang, please give the order. We will lead the Protoss army and conquer Tianhuang mainland completely." The 3 Protoss Emperors said loudly. Shenhuang, who was sitting on the throne, didn't move or say a word. The 3 Shenhuang Emperors shouted for a long time but didn't get any response. They gradually calmed down. "Your Majesty Shenhuang, what's the matter?" One of the Protoss Emperors said carefully, "Right now, the thousands of races on Tianhuang mainland are fighting each other and countless experts have died. This is the best opportunity." "That's right." Another Protoss Emperor hurriedly said, "Right now, the only threat on Tianhuang mainland is Wu Huang of the human race. As long as we kill Wu Huang, there will be no more threats on Tianhuang mainland. Wu Huang, Wu Huang." Shenhuang, who was sitting on the throne, suddenly opened his mouth and murmured softly, "Yes, Wu Huang." The Protoss Emperor below heard the response and was shocked. He hurriedly said, "This Wu Huang's Taoist name is Araki Takashi. He has 2 true bodies. However, after this battle, Wu Huang's 2 true bodies are also severely exhausted." Shenhuang slowly raised his hand. The Protoss Emperor hurriedly stopped talking. For some reason, Shenhuang's every move had an irresistible majesty. Although he was an emperor, he didn't dare to offend him. "Tie them up," Shenhuang said lightly. "Yes, Your Majesty." The 4 Protoss Emperors beside the throne nodded slightly and walked toward the 3 Protoss Emperors of Tianhuang mainland. "Your Majesty Shenhuang, what are you doing?" "We're helping you, helping the Protoss." The 3 Protoss Emperors of Tianhuang mainland were a little agitated and wanted to resist. The face of the old Protoss holding the sword of misfortune darkened. He said coldly, "How dare you go against Shenhuang's will? Do you want to die?" As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 Protoss Emperors of Tianhuang mainland were instantly scared speechless and kept quiet. Clang, clang. The storage rings on the 4 Protoss Emperors' fingers flashed, and a huge, shining golden chain was taken out. The head and tail of the chain were both sharp barbs. Once they pierced through flesh, they would be firmly locked. The 3 Protoss Emperors of Tianhuang mainland were so scared that their faces turned pale. They trembled, but they didn't dare to resist. They could only let the old Protoss Emperors bind them tightly with the chain. The barbs at the head and tail of the chain pierced through their flesh, and blood dripped out. The 3 Emperors trembled in pain, but they could only clench their teeth and remain silent. Some Protoss emperors rushed over from the border of the northern region. When they arrived, they happened to see this scene. They were all stunned, and their expressions were uncertain. "Your Majesty Shenhuang, what do you think?" An old Protoss woman holding the staff of dawn bowed slightly and asked softly. "Tie up these emperors too." Shenhuang said indifferently, "Lock up all the Protoss below the emperors. Don't let a single one out." "Yes, Your Majesty." The Protoss army answered loudly. The next moment, the Protoss army rushed forward. The Protoss emperors of Tianhuang mainland were also chained up. The Protoss army rushed to the border of the northern region, but they didn't attack any living beings on Tianhuang mainland. On the contrary, they captured all the Protoss of Tianhuang mainland and locked them up in a huge cage. Reading website M. Chapter 1733. Before long, all the Protoss of Tianhuang mainland were imprisoned by the mainland of God. All the living beings of Tianhuang mainland were confused. "Mystic Emperor, what's going on?" Long Ran frowned and asked, "Are the people of the mainland of God crazy? Or are they plotting something?" The old storyteller's eyes turned misty as he extended his finger and deduced rapidly. However, there was still no result after a while. The old storyteller shook his head. "There's an obscure sacred light shrouding Shenhuang that seems to come from the crown and divine throne. I can't deduce it either." Pausing for a moment, the old storyteller continued, "However, the mainland of God doesn't seem to be hostile this time." Su Zimo looked at Shenhuang, who was on the divine throne, in deep thought. He had a guess in his heart, but it was too bold and he did not dare to believe it. Before long, Shenhuang arrived not far from Su Zimo under the protection of many Protoss. Shenhuang stood up slowly from the divine throne. Su Zimo's gaze shifted. Shenhuang's blonde hair draped over her shoulders. She was tall and voluptuous. She wore a white robe that was sacred and elegant, revealing her perfect figure. It was a woman. Unfortunately, she was not the person Su Zimo guessed. More than 1,000 years ago, in the Kunlun ruins, Nian Qi found out the truth of the primordial war and felt guilty. He did not know how to face Su Zimo and the Night Spirit, so he leaped into the Rainbow Cave alone and headed to the mainland of God. All these years, there had been no news of him. When Su Zimo saw that the mainland of God did not seem to be hostile to Tianhuang mainland, a bold thought flashed through his mind. The Shenhuang of the mainland of God might be Nian Qi. However, the moment he saw Shenhuang stand up, Su Zimo shook his head. Although he couldn't see Nian Qi's face, he knew Nian Qi too well since Nian Qi had been by his side for so long. Nian Qi had the bloodline of the Protoss. She had always looked like a young girl. Even if 1,000 years had passed, she would not have changed so much. It wasn't just the change in figure, but also the difference in temperament. Nian Qi was usually by Su Zimo's side and was very obedient. As for the Shenhuang in front of him, he had a powerful aura. Although he had a devilish figure, he appeared incomparably sacred and could not be looked at directly. Shenhuang stood up, not saying a word. He just looked at Su Zimo from afar. Su Zimo frowned slightly, feeling a little confused. After a while, Shenhuang left the throne and slowly walked towards Su Zimo. The 4 Protoss emperors followed closely behind, and many Protoss made way for them. When the two of them were less than 10 feet apart, Shenhuang raised his hand and said softly, "You guys stay here." The 4 Protoss emperors exchanged glances and stopped in their tracks. Su Zimo's ears twitched. This voice was somewhat familiar, but also somewhat unfamiliar. Shenhuang walked toward Su Zimo alone. Su Zimo could not sense any hostility from Shenhuang. Even so, he did not dare to let his guard down. At that moment, Su Zimo was not the only one. On Tianhuang mainland, even some experts who were fighting at the borders of the North region stopped and looked over. The hearts of the living beings of the myriad races were filled with countless questions. Everyone was curious about what would happen when Wu Huang and Shenhuang, the 2 peak experts of the 2 continents, met for the first time. Before long, Shenhuang had already arrived before Su Zimo. The distance between the two of them was less than an arm. To a ruler, this distance was very close, and it was extremely dangerous. However, Su Zimo did not retreat. Instead, he looked at the divine emperor who was walking towards him quietly. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes. The two emperors stood opposite each other. Immediately after, in front of everyone, Shen Huang bowed towards Wu Huang. An uproar broke out across Tianhuang mainland. The living beings of the myriad races widened their eyes and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. Shen Huangdo. The four Protoss emperors of the continent of gods were rather agitated and exclaimed, Nianqi? Su Zimo looked at Shen Huang, who was bowing in front of him, and tried his best to suppress the agitation in his heart as he asked softly, Young master, it's me. Shen Huang raised his head and activated his spirit consciousness. The power of the crown dissipated, revealing a near-perfect face that stunned the world. Su Zimo was stunned on the spot as well. Although this face was slightly different from Nianqi's, he could still clearly recognize Nianqi's former appearance. Nianqi had grown up. The only thing that did not change was that pair of blue eyes that were as blue as the sea. Those eyes were filled with endless longing, reliance, excitement, tenderness. A look of realization flashed through Su Zimo's mind. It was no wonder why he found that voice familiar and unfamiliar. That was because Nianqi had undergone a voice change after growing up. That was why there was such a change. It's that girl? After the old storyteller saw Nianqi, he was slightly stunned and reacted quickly. In a trance, he fell into a distant memory and revealed a trace of emotion. A long time ago, when he first met Su Zimo in the capital of the Great Zhou dynasty in the northern region, there was such a girl behind Su Zimo. At that time, he could tell that this girl had some Protoss bloodline in her body, but it was extremely obscure. He did not think too much about it. She was just a descendant of a Protoss. Over the years, Nianqi had followed Su Zimo. Although her cultivation had not fallen, she had not revealed any sharpness. But who would have thought that the girl from back then had become the Shen Huang of the continent of gods? Nianqi, it's really you? Su Zimo laughed happily. In his excitement, he hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed Nianqi's shoulders to help her up. How dare you? The old Protoss holding the sword of misfortune widened his eyes and took a step forward. He blew his beard and stared at Su Zimo. With a face full of anger, he shouted, The body of the Shen Huang is sacred and flawless. How can you casually touch it? Back down. Don't be rude. Nianqi glanced sideways, frowned slightly, and shouted softly. The old Protoss was a little indignant, but he did not dare to resist and could only retreat angrily. Nianqi, how did you? Su Zimo also had countless doubts in his heart. It's a long story. Nianqi smiled, and a hint of imperceptible bitterness flashed across her eyes. Su Zimo suddenly felt a wave of pity and heartache. He did not continue to ask. However, he could imagine that Nianqi must have experienced countless grievances, difficulties and dangers in roaming the continent of gods alone. As a descendant of a Protoss with an impure bloodline, Nianqi ascended to the position of the Shen Huang step by step. What sort of hardships did she have to go through in the process? Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo had the gifts left behind by Dai Yu, Misty Peak, Patriarch Yuan Bei, the Red-Headed Ghost, Extreme Fire, Lin Xuanji and other friends of the sect accompanying him. On the other hand, Nianqi was all alone in the continent of gods with no one to rely on. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1734. Su Zimo had never believed in innate bloodlines. The primordial 9 races were born with powerful bloodlines, but their future accomplishments might not be above that of humans. He, Su Zimo, was the most ordinary mortal without even a spirit root. Yet, he had reached the peak of Tianhuang mainland and was conferred the title of Wu Huang, respected by all races. The blood demon Dao Lord and monk Daming from 40,000 years ago were also abandoned descendants of the primordial races. However, their final accomplishments were stronger than any primordial races with pure bloodlines. It was the same for Nianqi. Su Zimo believed that Nianqi must have experienced countless things in the past 1,000 years on God's mainland. In fact, It might even be more exciting than what he had experienced on Tianhuang mainland. Those experiences were the reason why Shenhuang was who he was today. Nian Qi, why are you here at this moment? Su Zimo asked again. Nian Qi smiled gently. In the civilization of God's mainland, there's a type of divination technique that's similar to some divination techniques of Enigma Palace. It can predict certain things. According to my divination, there's a huge change in Tianhuang mainland. I'm guessing that there's a high chance that a war broke out between the primordial races and the human race. Therefore, I brought my clansmen here to help you quell the threat of the primordial races. With that said, Nian Qi suddenly raised his voice. All pros, listen up. Join forces with the human cultivators of Tianhuang mainland and suppress the witch, bloodvine, heavenly eye, Rakshasa and golden crow races. Understood. The many Protoss knights agreed. The Protoss army moved and charged towards the battlefield at the borders of the north region with thunderous hooves. The only ones left standing behind Nian Qi were the 4 emperors of Protoss with God Judgment weapons. The 4 emperors of Protoss looked at Su Zimo with a hint of wariness and hostility. They had no feelings for Su Zimo. They only knew that Nian Qi, as the Shenhuang of the godly continent, bowed to this Wu Huang. This was really inappropriate. No matter what, Shenhuang should have the same status as Wu Huang. But at this time, Nian Qi returned to Su Zimo's side. The aura of Shenhuang on his body had long disappeared, as if he had returned to the days of the past. Nian Qi's dependence on Su Zimo could be seen from his words and gestures. The 4 God clan sovereigns frowned as they watched. Su Zimo also turned around and looked at the battlefield in the north. His voice was cold as he said slowly, "The Golden Crow Fire Emperor, the Shadowless Emperor, the Thousand Eyes Emperor, and the Blood Emperor have all been killed. All living beings of the primordial 5 races and the 8 great demon regions, listen up. Those who surrender will not be killed. If you continue to resist, you will be killed without mercy." Su Zimo did not intend to kill them all. On the one hand, both sides suffered heavy losses in this battle. If they continued fighting, it would be a disaster for the 10,000 races of Tianhuang mainland. On the other hand, he was worried about another huge hidden danger. On the battlefield of the North region, after the emperors of the primordial 5 races died one after another, the primordial 5 races were already showing signs of defeat. Right now, the Protoss army had joined the battlefield. Su Zimo's words caused the alliance army of the primordial 5 races to crumble instantly. The living beings of the 8 great demon regions bowed one after another. The experts of the primordial 5 races had already given up on resisting. They either submitted or fled with all their might. The human emperors heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that. After this battle, the primordial 5 races would fall into complete silence and would not be able to do anything for the rest of history. In midair, Nian Qi lowered his head slightly and said softly, "Young master, I'm sorry." But Su Zimo was confused and asked instinctively. Nian Qi pointed to the Protoss imprisoned behind him and said, "They're Protoss after all. As the Emperor of Shenhuang, it's not appropriate for me to kill all of them." "It's nothing," Su Zimo shook his head. Even if the human race won this battle, he did not intend to kill all of them. Nian Qi did not hesitate at all. Just now, he had killed the 3 Protoss emperors of Tianhuang mainland directly. It was already an explanation for the living beings of the 10,000 races that died in this battle. "Young master, I still want to go somewhere." After a moment of silence, Nian Qi suddenly said, "Let's go, I'll accompany you." Although Nian Qi did not say it explicitly, Su Zimo had already guessed it. The 2 of them sped towards the west with the 4 Protoss emperors following closely. Before long, the 6 of them arrived in the sky above Kunlun ruins. The 4 Protoss emperors took out their divine judgment weapons one after another and channeled their blood qi to activate the power of the divine judgment weapons. They cut a spacious passage in Kunlun ruins. In this passage, there would not be a divine power storm. The 6 of them walked forward and soon arrived at the God-slaying canyon. On both sides of the God-slaying canyon stood 2 tall and ferocious corpses with monstrous auras. Even though they had fallen for countless years, These two corpses still emitted a heart-palpitating aura with surging might. Two divine puppets from the primordial era. Nianqi arrived at the god-slaying canyon and knelt down before the two divine puppets. Shenhuang, why did you? When the old Protoss saw this, he hurriedly went forward and wanted to help Nianqi up. However, Nianqi's gaze swept across him. Just now, this pair of jade-blue eyes were looking at Su Zimo with tenderness. However, at this moment, Nianqi's eyes were filled with killing intent and majesty. The old Protoss's heart skipped a beat. He shuddered and kept quiet. Nianqi said softly, "Senior divine puppets, back then, the Protoss committed a grave mistake and caused the two of you to die in battle here. You have suffered eternal injustice. Today, the descendants of the Protoss have come to beg for your forgiveness." With that, Nianqi knelt and kowtowed to the two divine puppets. Again and again. Every time he kowtowed, Nianqi's eyes were filled with endless guilt. "Nianqi, get up." Su Zimo couldn't bear it and said softly, "This is the crime committed by the Protoss back then. It has nothing to do with you. You shouldn't have to bear this in the first place." Nianqi didn't answer and continued kowtowing. At some point, the night spirit came to Su Zimo's side. Back then, after learning the truth of the primordial war, although the night spirit never said it, he did feel a little estranged from Nianqi in his heart. Nianqi could feel it. Therefore, she left Tianhuang mainland without hesitation, left Su Zimo, and went to the continent of gods alone. This time, Nianqi returned not only to help Su Zimo, but also to atone for the Protoss sins. Before long, blood could be seen on Nianqi's forehead. A long time later, Nianqi raised his head and looked at the two corpses of the gods' puppets. He said in a deep voice, "I swear in the name of Shenhuang that as long as I'm alive, no one from the continent of gods shall ever take a single step into Tianhuang mainland. If I violate this oath, I shall be destroyed by the heavens." Rumble! Boom! The moment he said that, the corpses of the gods' puppets on both sides of the god-slaying canyon shattered one after another, turning into countless spots of light that scattered into the air. Those spots of light gradually condensed into two taboo gods' puppets. The two gods' puppets took a deep look at Night Spirit and growled at Nianqi before turning to leave and vanishing before everyone's eyes. Night Spirit knelt down silently with tears in her eyes. Su Zimo sighed softly with a sorrowful expression. The two gods' puppets of the primordial era had their hearts tied to Tianhuang mainland. Even if they died, they carried with them an endless obsession. That was why the two corpses stood here with their backs to Tianhuang mainland. Nianqi's oath allowed the two gods' puppets to let go of their obsessions and leave this world completely. Nianqi was forgiven. The Protoss was redeemed. The gods' puppets were freed. At this moment, the grudge of the primordial era was turned into the past, and there was finally an end. End of chapter. Chapter 1735. The war started by the primordial 5 races was nearing its end. The living beings of the 8 demon regions submitted one after another. The experts of the primordial 5 races suffered countless casualties and were completely defeated. Of the 5 top emperors of the primordial 5 races, only the Dark Witch Emperor was left, and he escaped back to the ancestral ground of the Witch race. The Dragon Phoenix true body chased after him, prepared to kill this hidden danger completely. The ancestral ground of the Witch race was sinister and many of the buildings were made of bones. It was extremely terrifying. Around the ancestral land of the Sorcerer tribe was a dark green river. It was extremely viscous and bubbled with water. From time to time, skulls would float up from the green river and stare at the Dragon Phoenix true body in midair with their pitch-black eye sockets, as though they possessed sentience. After the Dragon Phoenix true body descended, he had already sensed that there was a curse power in the ancestral ground of the Witch race that restricted his essence spirit greatly. Even his spirit consciousness could not envelop the entire ancestral ground of the Witch race and investigate the entire place. The Dragon Phoenix true body sensed and murmured, "There's actually an array formation here. To think that there's an expert proficient in array formations in the Witch race as well." After pondering for a moment, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already sensed the flaw of the array formation. Refine. The Dragon Phoenix true body's eyes shone brightly. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat out a stream of scarlet lava that poured towards the dark green river around the ancestral ground. Buzz. Buzz. The boiling lava mixed with the sticky green river and let out a series of strange sounds as green smoke billowed. Although the Dragon Phoenix flames had yet to reach the realm of a peerless divine power, its might was still terrifying as a taboo innate flame. In fact, shrill cries could be heard from the green river. The next moment, figures of souls floated in the air above the green river one after another. They were densely packed and innumerable. That river had devoured the souls of countless living beings. The green river was the source of power for the formation of the witch race. After the members of the witch race killed the living beings of the 10,000 races, they would use secret techniques to imprison their souls and throw them into this river so that they would never be reincarnated. The flame of the Dragon Phoenix true body finally freed these souls. The Dragon Phoenix true body's expression was ice-cold. The flames that it spat out from its mouth flourished and soon enveloped the entire green river. On the surface of the river, a raging fire was ignited. Before long, the power of the curse in the green river was already burned to nothing by the Dragon Phoenix true body. The array in the ancestral land of the sorcerer tribe was broken. Without any restrictions, the consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body was released and instantly enveloped the entire ancestral land of the sorcerer tribe. The Dragon Phoenix true body frowned slightly. The vast ancestral land of the sorcerer tribe was extremely spacious. Under his divine sense, he could not see any sorcerer tribesmen. However, in the depths of the sorcerer tribe's ancestral land, there was a valley that even the divine consciousness of the Dragon Phoenix true body could not explore. Without hesitation, the Dragon Phoenix true body flapped its wings and sped toward the valley. Before long, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already descended into the valley. As expected, all the witches were gathered in that valley. There were at least 100,000 of them. Of course, those witches had different cultivation realms as well. Standing in midair and looking down, one could clearly see that the ground of the valley was filled with gigantic ravines. These ravines were all formed by piles of white bones, forming rings. More than 100,000 sorcerer tribesmen were standing on the ring of ravines. Within the rings, there were 8 ravines that led to the center of the valley. It was a white bone altar. A person stood on the altar. It was the underworld witch emperor who had escaped from the Dragon Bone Valley. Apart from the underworld witch emperor, there were 4 other emperors of the sorcerer race standing around the white bone altar. However, the 4 emperors of the sorcerer race were all old. The underworld witch emperor stood in the center of the white bone altar and waved his bone staff. The 4 emperors of the sorcerer race supported him and were executing some secret skill of the sorcerer race. The gaze of the Dragon Phoenix true body froze and his heart skipped a beat. More than 100,000 witches had already cut their wrists and the bloodline of the sorcerer race flowed through their veins. The bloodline of the sorcerer race flowed along the 8 ravines and slowly flowed onto the white bone altar. The underworld witch emperor chanted an obscure incantation. Under the guidance of his bone staff, the bloodline of the sorcerer race condensed into a dark green ball of blood in the sky above the valley. The dark green ball of blood surged continuously. On its surface, strange and eerie runes condensed and emitted an extremely terrifying energy fluctuation. The Dragon Phoenix true body had never seen such a technique before. However, he realized that he could not let the underworld witch emperor release this secret skill. Swoosh! The Dragon Phoenix true body flashed and charged toward the underworld witch emperor in the center of the white bone altar at an astonishing speed. Rise! The underworld witch emperor had clearly seen the Dragon Phoenix true body as well. However, he did not panic at all. Instead, a trace of mockery flashed across his eyes as he shouted, "Buzz!" The white bone ravines around the white bone altar suddenly burst forth with dark green light and landed directly on the Dragon Phoenix true body. Boom! There was a loud bang. The Dragon Phoenix true body was sent flying by the rays of light. The scales on his body showed signs of rotting and dimming as they fell off. The power that erupted from the altar was extremely strong. The dragon phoenix true body's organs were violently shaken when he was hit. Hee hee. The underworld witch emperor laughed with a slightly crazed expression. Araki Takashi, it doesn't feel good, right? The worst is yet to come. It's too late for you to stop me. You, all of the living beings of Tianhuang mainland, prepare to be enslaved by the sorcerer race. Ha! The underworld witch emperor's expression was ferocious as he laughed maniacally. In the end, he was already hysterical. As the underworld witch emperor's voice was heard, the dark green ball of light in the sky became denser and the runes on it became brighter and brighter. Dark witch emperor, please descend upon Tianhuang mainland and subdue all living beings. The underworld witch emperor raised his head and stared at the dark green ball of light in the sky as he roared. Dark witch emperor, please descend upon Tianhuang mainland and subdue all living beings. More than 10 sorcerer race members shouted at the same time. Sacrifice! The underworld witch emperor shouted. Immediately after, his body exploded and turned into a cloud of blood mist that was rapidly devoured by the dark green ball of light in the sky. The dragon phoenix true body had a grave expression. The underworld witch emperor was dead. In order to use the secret technique of the sorcerer race, the underworld witch emperor had even sacrificed his life. Who was the dark witch emperor that the underworld witch emperor mentioned? Could it be? The dragon phoenix true body suddenly thought of a terrifying possibility and raised his head instinctively. Boom! The dark green ball of light in the sky suddenly exploded and a terrifying power swept through the entire firmament. Even the clouds were dyed dark green. This force slammed into a crack in the sky that was shining with a blazing light. That crack was left behind by the ancient human emperor 1,000 years ago when he descended to the lower realm. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 1736. 1,000 years ago, the storyteller old man used a secret skill to lure the human emperor down to the lower realm and almost exhausted his lifespan. But now, this secret skill was clearly similar to the storyteller old man's secret skill. Furthermore, the secret skill of the witch race was even more intense. Not only did it sacrifice the life of a top-tier emperor, the underworld witch emperor, there were also 4 witch emperors and hundreds of thousands of bloodlines of the witch race that were activated together. The experts of the witch race from the upper realm were about to descend upon Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo could do nothing about all of this and could not stop it either. This is bad. The storyteller old man's heart skipped a beat when he saw that. Long Ran had a grim expression as well. I wonder how strong the experts of the upper realm summoned by the witch race are. However, no matter what, the experts of the upper realm will have to pay a heavy price for descending. Not necessarily, the storyteller old man sighed with a worried expression. As the guardian of the human emperor's palace, he naturally knew that the current heaven and earth of Tianhuang mainland was incomplete and the laws were incomplete. After 1,000 years, the laws of heaven and earth might not affect the experts of the upper realm. If that was the case, the consequences would be dire. The living beings of Tianhuang mainland would most likely be annihilated. Back then, the human emperor's cultivation realm fell continuously and he was severely injured, leaving behind only an essence spirit. With the help of Su Zimo's Qinglian's true body, he could still kill top-tier emperors such as Tian Shenhuang. If the experts of the witch race who descended from the upper realm did not change their cultivation realms, no one would be able to defend against the attacks of the experts of the witch race of the upper realm. Boom! A deafening sound echoed from the ends of the skies. Suddenly, a dark green beam of light descended from the crack in the firmaments and smashed onto the ground of the middle continent. The ground shook. Under this dark green beam of light, countless living beings were reduced to ashes on the spot. Immediately after, 7 figures descended slowly right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races. The 7 figures were dressed strangely and were different from the witch race of Tianhuang mainland. They looked even older. However, the seven figures also had a pair of dark green eyes that looked extremely sinister, like the eyes of the devil. What was even more terrifying was that when the seven figures descended, they were accompanied by a vast might that caused the living beings of the 10,000 races to feel as though a calamity was imminent. Not to mention some ordinary cultivators, even the rulers of Tianhuang mainland would not have the slightest intention to resist under that pressure. The dragon phoenix's true body looked at the six figures with a grim expression. Are these the experts of the witch race of the upper realm? Which one is mystic? Or is it that the dark sorcerer does not refer to a person, but something else? The seven powerful sorcerer tribe cultivators from the upper world slowly descended. Around each of them, the void was constantly collapsing and shattering. Heaven and earth, mystic heaven and earth, heaven, Tianhuang mainland of hell, heaven and earth, heaven and earth. What was even more frightening was that the seven sorcerer tribesmen from the upper world were not affected at all after descending to Tianhuang region. Heaven, mystic realm. The heavens and earth were flawed, and the laws were incomplete. The underworld witch emperor had used a secret technique to summon the powerhouses of the upper realm, but the realms of these witches had not fallen. Among the seven upper world experts, an old witch in the middle murmured softly and said slowly, "We've descended. This mainland is a minor kiliacosm." The living beings of this minor kiliacosm are so weak. Another slightly younger witch grinned excitedly and released his spirit consciousness, patrolling Tianhuang mainland wantonly. "Elder Feng, is what you said true?" Another female witch asked. "Are there really any rare treasures in this minor kiliacosm?" "Of course," the old witch from the upper realm nodded. "Don't underestimate this minor kiliacosm because it's weak, it's still a world of its own. It's not rare for any universal treasures to exist here." The few witches who descended from the upper realm spoke casually without concealing their voices and intentions. They did not take the thousands of races of Tianhuang mainland seriously at all. Or rather, in the eyes of the seven upper world witches, the thousands of living beings of Tianhuang mainland were ants. Even a ruler was only a slightly more powerful ant. Su Zimo was secretly shocked. Elder Feng was right. At the very least, the creation Qinglian was a treasure from the upper realm. The heaven-slaying sword art and earth-slaying sword art seemed to be from the upper realm as well. That was only what Su Zimo knew. There might be more that he did not know. Elder Feng continued, "You must know that if any treasure appears in the upper realm, it will definitely attract countless experts to fight for it and cause a bloodbath. However, in this lower realm, as long as we can descend, we can take away all the treasures. There's no power in the lower realm that can threaten us." "But what treasures can there be in the lower realm?" Another young witch asked. "The spirit qi in this minor kiliacosm is thin and it's far from the heaven and earth essence qi in the upper realm." Elder Feng chuckled. "Naturally, there's no way for any true treasures to be born in the lower realm. However, it's extremely possible for treasures from the upper realm to be lost in the lower realm. Legend has it that the only creation Qinglian of the universe was lost in the lower realm and her whereabouts are unknown. If anyone can obtain that green lotus of good fortune and nurture it to the 12th stage, they will definitely soar to the sky. Even a single lotus seed of the creation Qinglian can increase one's lifespan by countless times if refined into medicine." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. "There's no hurry. The laws of this world are incomplete. We can still stay for a few more days." Elder Feng added, 1,000 years ago, the ancient human emperor descended. Due to the restrictions of the laws, he did not stay for long before returning to the upper realm. But now that the seven witches had descended to Tianhuang mainland, not only did their cultivation realms not drop, they could even stay for a few more days. What happened to the witch race for us to be alarmed? Elder Feng's gaze shifted to the ancestral ground of the witch race as he said slowly. His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it was filled with authority and spread to every corner of Tianhuang mainland. The 4 shaman rulers from the shaman tribe's ancestral land hurried over and knelt down. With respectful expressions, they said in a deep voice, The shaman tribe is in danger of being exterminated. Dark shamans, please make a move and kill the enemy. Elder Feng raised his brow slightly. Even in the upper realm, the witch race is considered a strong race. To think that there's a threat of being annihilated in this minor world? What sort of enemy would dare to annihilate the witch race? Suddenly, Elder Feng's voice turned deep and cold with a chilling intent. It's the taboo dragon phoenix. One of the emperors of the witch race turned around hurriedly and pointed to the true body of the dragon phoenix above the ancestral ground, shouting, "It's him!" A dark glint flashed through Elder Feng's eyes as he said in surprise, "To think that such a demon beast would be nurtured in this minor world. That's rare." Apart from the dragon phoenix, there's also a taboo god puppet. Another underworld witch emperor added, "By the way, just now, the creation Qinglian that you mentioned is one of the true bodies of the dragon phoenix." When they heard about the creation Qinglian, the eyes of Elder Feng and the other experts of the witch race shone brightly. End of chapter. Chapter 1737. Creation Qinglian. Elder Feng reached out and grabbed the elder of the witch race through the void, asking sternly, "Did you mention creation Qinglian earlier on?" Yes. The voice of the sorcerer tribe's ruler was trembling. He had no way of resisting at all against Elder Feng's palm. "Where is creation Qinglian?" Elder Feng tried his best to suppress his emotions and asked in a deep voice, "Just now, what's with the true body you mentioned? Hurry and tell me the truth." That dragon phoenix's Dao title is Araki Takashi and he's Wu Huang in Tianhuang mainland. He's almost the strongest person. Wu Huang has another true body. I heard that by chance, he fused with creation Qinglian and became her true body. The emperor of the witch race said hurriedly. "A clone technique?" Another witch of the upper world frowned slightly. "His flesh can fuse with creation Qinglian? A humanoid creation Qinglian?" The emperor of the witch race nodded repeatedly. "That's right. Furthermore, Wu Huang's Qinglian true body has already grown to the peak of grade 8. It's extremely powerful and its physique can take Dharma treasures head-on." Peak of grade 8. Elder Feng's eyes lit up when he heard that. "Ha!" Elder Feng could not help but burst into laughter. The wrinkles on his face piled together as he shouted, "The heavens are truly on my side. This is fate." "Congratulations, Elder Feng." The 6 young witches at the side congratulated hurriedly, but there was a hint of jealousy in their eyes. Who wouldn't be tempted by a treasure like the creation Qinglian? Elder Feng was excited. "If I can obtain the creation Qinglian, my lifespan will be extended and I'll definitely be able to take that most crucial step. Congratulations, congratulations." The 4 emperors of the witch race echoed hurriedly. "Where's the humanoid creation Qinglian?" Elder Feng asked hurriedly. The 4 sorcerer rulers looked at each other and shook their heads. They had been setting up the sacrificial ritual in the ancestral land of the Magi, so they did not know that Qinglian's true body, Nian Qi, and the others were in the Kunlun ruins. Su Zimo, Nian Qi, and the other Protoss stood together without activating their Qi and blood. Naturally, the powerhouses of the upper realm did not notice him. "You don't know." Elder Feng frowned. "That creation Qinglian is one of the forbidden dragon phoenix's true bodies. As long as we capture him, we'll be able to find out the whereabouts of Qinglian's true body." A sorcerer ruler pointed at the true body of the dragon phoenix and hurriedly said, "Swish, swish." The gazes of the 7 powerhouses of the upper world were all focused on the true body of the dragon phoenix. Although they were millions of miles away, these gazes seemed to be able to pierce through the void and land on his body. It was as if there were thorns stabbing into his body, causing him to feel a dull pain. The true form of the dragon phoenix stood in the air. The qi and blood in his body surged. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 7 powerhouses of the upper world without retreating. It was not that he did not want to retreat. It was because he had no way out. Hee. Elder Feng laughed strangely and suddenly extended his palm, aiming it at the true form of the dragon phoenix from 1,000,000 miles away. All of a sudden, The space around the true form of the dragon phoenix suddenly collapsed and a gigantic dark green palm appeared in the void, gripping his body tightly. Six Fangs Divine Power. The true form of the dragon phoenix released a peerless divine power right away. 6 divine elephant fangs that were as white as jade pierced out from his back slowly. His body was filled with an extremely domineering power and his blood chi surged. The true form of the dragon phoenix had already channeled the power within his body to its limits. Even so, he could not break free from the dark green palm. His strength, in front of this palm, seemed so insignificant. This scene was like a mayfly trying to shake a tree. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the forbidden dragon phoenix that was almost the peak existence of Tianhuang mainland was grabbed by a dark green palm and pulled towards Elder Feng. The difference was too great. It was a world of difference. Kunlun ruins. Su Zimo's expression turned extremely terrible. This power was not something they could contend against. Back then, when the eternal human emperor descended to the lower realm, his cultivation realm fell and he was only left with his essence spirit. With the existence of Qinglian's true form, the emperors of the primordial races could still fight against him. But now, the 7 upper realm witches had descended and their cultivation realms were unchanged. Against this unknown power of the upper realm, the true form of the dragon phoenix could not resist at all. This was an unsolvable situation. Not to mention, there was no movement from Wu Dao's true form. Even if Wu Dao's true form had some comprehension and came out of seclusion, he had no chance of winning against this power. The difference was akin to a mortal facing the emperor of Tianhuang mainland. Night Spirit moved and wanted to tear through space to help the true form of the dragon phoenix. "Don't go!" Su Zimo stopped him hurriedly. Even if Night Spirit headed over, he would only be courting death. "Your Majesty Shenhuang, let's hurry and leave." The old Protoss whispered, "This place is too dangerous. We can't stay here any longer." The other 3 Protoss emperors nodded as well. Fortunately, Nianqi was worshipping the corpse of the god and they followed him to Kunlun ruins. They were very close to the Rainbow Cave and could leave in the blink of an eye. If they were still in Middle Continent or the North region, they might not have the chance to leave. "Young master, hurry and leave with me before they notice you." Nianqi had a worried expression as he secretly sent a voice transmission to Su Zimo. "Follow me to the mainland of God. The laws of the mainland of God are flawless. It's impossible for the witches of the upper realm to barge in." "Young master, this is the only way out." Su Zimo pursed his lips tightly and did not say a word, only looking at the true form of the dragon phoenix. Nianqi knew what Su Zimo was thinking and continued, "Young master, I know you can't bear it, but the true form of the dragon phoenix has been captured and can't be saved. We can only give it up. If you stay here, Qinglian's true form will be captured by them sooner or later. At that time, both true forms will fall into their hands. Young master, don't hesitate anymore. Hurry and follow me." Nianqi was anxious and urged. How could Su Zimo not know that heading to the mainland of God was his only way out? However, the true form of the dragon phoenix was not just a true body to him. That true body carried everything about Daiyu. To him, it was a form of spiritual sustenance. Furthermore, the descent of the 7 witches of the upper realm would definitely cause a calamity for the living beings of Tianhuang mainland. Under this calamity, who knew how many humans would perish? As Wu Huang and the emperor of this world, how could Su Zimo abandon the living beings of the world and leave alone? "Nianqi, leave first. I'll be there in a while." After pausing for a moment, Su Zimo continued, "Night Spirit, leave this place with Nianqi as well." "Young master." Nianqi called out softly and did not leave. She had also guessed that Su Zimo had no intention of leaving at all, and that was the reason why he wanted her and Night Spirit to leave first. "I'm not leaving," Night Spirit said slowly. The god race was born to protect Tianhuang mainland. Under such circumstances, how could Night Spirit leave? Genius memorized the address of this website in a second. Mobile version of reading website, Tim. Chapter 1738. In the Sky Above Dragon Bone Valley. The human emperors, dragons, Kuan, barbarians, and other rulers watched from afar as the dragon phoenix's true body was captured by the shamans from the upper realm, but they were powerless. The forbidden dragon phoenix had comprehended 2 supreme abilities and could even kill human rulers who had comprehended 6 supreme abilities. In the hands of this shaman from the upper realm, the forbidden dragon phoenix was powerless. Even if they swarmed forward, it would be useless. What should we do? Long Ran was anxious. He turned to look at the old storyteller and asked, "Can we think of a way to let the human emperor descend?" 1,000 years ago, the human emperor descended to the upper realm and was severely injured. All these years, even in the human emperor's palace, I haven't contacted him. The old storyteller shook his head and sighed. The shamans can summon powerhouses from the upper realm. Can't the dragons, barbarians, and Kuan do? A human ruler could not help but ask. A few rulers from the primordial races shook their heads. Long Ran also sighed and said, "Among the primordial races, I'm afraid only the shamans have such a secret technique." "Doesn't that mean that we can only watch the forbidden dragon phoenix die?" The monk had a compassionate expression and could not bear it. "I'm afraid that's not all." The old storyteller's expression was solemn as he said, "It's not just the dragon phoenix. I'm afraid that the other powerhouses of the primordial races won't be able to escape death as well." "That's right." Long Ran nodded and said, "Although we're rulers in the eyes of these upper realm powerhouses, we're like ants. Our lives are like grass." At this moment, a Rakshasa ruler also realized that the situation was not good. His figure flashed, flapped his wings, and sped toward the far west. Powerhouses of other levels might still have a chance to survive. However, if the shamans of the upper realm wanted the shamans to rule Tianhuang mainland, they had to kill all the rulers of the other races. The other rulers of the primordial races clearly realized this as well. After the Rakshasa ruler fled, the remaining rulers of the Golden Crow race, the Heavenly Eye race, the Bloodvine race, and the others fled one after another. These rulers also realized that only the 5-colored cave in the Kunlun ruins was their only way out. Elder Feng had dragged the dragon phoenix true body over from thousands of miles away. He had yet to arrive. When he saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curled up. With a mocking expression, he said indifferently, "All of you, go. Let these ants from the lower realm experience the power of the upper realm." All right. The other 6 sorcerers from the upper realm were already eager to give it a try. They could not wait any longer. The 6 sorcerers from the upper realm made their move. A young shaman flashed. His speed was so fast that he was as fast as lightning. In just a few breaths, he had caught up to the Rakshasa ruler who was the first to escape. One had to know that the Rakshasa race had the fastest movement speed. On the other hand, the sorcerer tribe's physical body and bloodline were ordinary. Their speed was also extremely ordinary. Even so, the young shaman from the upper realm caught up to the Rakshasa ruler in just a few breaths. "Where do you want to go?" The young shaman from the upper realm chuckled. He suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of dark green air in the direction of the Rakshasa ruler. The stream of chi landed on the Rakshasa ruler's body, causing him to freeze in midair. Immediately after, right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the body of the Rakshasa ruler rotted rapidly and emitted green bubbles. In the blink of an eye, it was corroded into a pool of green sticky liquid that scattered down. He was dead. A Rakshasa ruler was killed by a single breath from the upper realm shaman just like that. When the other emperors of the primordial races who were fleeing saw this, they were scared out of their wits as well. They were already at the peak of Tianhuang mainland after cultivating to the level of emperors. They had never felt such fear. A ruler of the Heavenly Eye race was shocked and was about to continue fleeing when a woman from the witch race appeared not far away. That woman was also from the upper realm. The ruler of the Heavenly Eye race met the woman of the witch race from the upper realm. The eyes of the woman of the witch race from the upper realm shone with a strange dark green luster. Not good. The ruler of the Heavenly Eye race was alarmed. Without thinking, he opened his heavenly eye and prepared to release the secret skill of the heavenly eye race. However, the moment his heavenly eye opened, his eyeball exploded. Ah! The ruler of the heavenly eye race shrieked. Before long, the shriek stopped. The ruler of the heavenly eye race tilted his head and fell from midair. There was no longer any life in his body. He was dead. In fact, the heavenly eye race being did not even know how he died. In the eyes of others, the ruler of the heavenly eye race was already dead after exchanging a single glance with the woman of the witch race from the upper realm. Was this the power of the upper realm? The old storyteller and the others widened their eyes in shock. This kind of power had completely exceeded their understanding. Before the ruler of the bloodvine race could escape far, a green spark suddenly appeared on his body. It was almost unnoticeable. However, that spark burned the ruler of the bloodvine race into ashes rapidly. The entire process took less than 3 breaths. The ruler of the bloodvine race was dead. Tisk tsk tsk. A sinister laughter sounded from above the firmaments. It was a witch from the upper realm. His figure flickered continuously as he circled around a ruler of the Golden Crow race. No matter which direction the ruler of the Golden Crow race fled in, this witch from the upper realm would be a step ahead of him and block him. Where do you think you're escaping to? The witch from the upper realm teased the ruler of the Golden Crow race like a cat toying with a mouse and asked with a smile. You can't escape. Give up. The witch from the upper realm laughed continuously with a mocking expression. Kill. Seeing that he could not escape, the ruler of the Golden Crow race felt a surge of hot blood. He threw his life and death to the back of his mind and charged towards the witch from the upper realm. The witch from the upper realm stood on the spot without dodging or using any methods. Under the gazes of the crowd, a Golden Crow Emperor crashed heavily into the body of the shaman from the upper world. The third leg of the ruler of the Golden Crow race even grabbed the head of the witch from the upper realm. The physical bloodline of the witch race was weak. Although the physical bloodline of the 3-legged Golden Crow was not as strong as that of the dragons and Protoss, it was not to be underestimated either. The third leg of the Golden Crow race was even sharper and tougher. It could pierce through everything. Could it kill this witch from the upper realm? The storyteller old man and the other emperors held their breaths. Tisk tsk tsk. The laughter of the witch from the upper realm sounded as he said faintly, I told you a long time ago. Give up. The ruler of the Golden Crow race was shocked. His third leg could not even pierce through the flesh and skin of the witch from the upper realm. The difference was too great. A look of despair flashed through the eyes of the ruler of the Golden Crow race. I don't want to play with you anymore. It's boring. The witch from the upper realm muttered and reached out casually to slap the ruler of the Golden Crow race. The ruler of the Golden Crow race was slapped into a blood mist. He died without a corpse. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1739. The greatest weakness of the witch race was their weak physiques and ordinary bloodlines. However, now, the upper realm sorcerer tribe had used a technique that they were not good at to kill a Golden Crow tribe sovereign. It was as easy as crushing an ant. This power. The old storyteller's face was pale as he murmured, I'm afraid even the taboo dragon phoenix won't be able to withstand that palm strike. To think that ascending to the upper world would bring about such a huge transformation. The human emperors were shocked as well. In that short period of time, the dragon phoenix true body was already captured by Elder Feng. The dragon phoenix true body had a calm expression and there was no hint of fear in his eyes. Just now, he had witnessed everything as well. Furthermore, the dragon phoenix true body realized that even if he had a taboo bloodline and taboo body, he would not be able to defend against the power of the upper world witch race. However, he had no intention of allowing himself to be captured. Even if he had to die, he had to drag a witch race member down the path of Acheron with him. The other 6 witch race members had gone to hunt down the other emperors of the primordial races and had yet to return to Elder Feng's side. This was the best opportunity. Elder Feng sized up the dragon phoenix true body without any restraint. The dragon phoenix's true body was gigantic and was covered in scarlet armor that burned with raging flames. Even in front of Elder Feng, his aura did not diminish. "Seems like you're still unconvinced," Elder Feng smiled gently. "If you're going to act like this in front of me, put it away." The moment he said that, the dark green hand that grabbed the dragon phoenix's true body suddenly tightened and burst forth with an extremely terrifying power. The dragon phoenix's true body grunted. The dragon phoenix flames on his body were extinguished instantly. The two pairs of wings on his back were crushed by the gigantic palm as well, dripping with blood. Under the pressure of the dark green hand, the dragon phoenix's true body shrank continuously and returned to his human form before long. "Speak." Elder Feng looked at the dragon phoenix's true body and asked indifferently, "Where's that Qinglian true body of yours?" "I can tell you, but can you let my true body off?" The dragon phoenix's true body suddenly asked. The reason why he said that was to numb Elder Feng and make the latter let down his guard. "No problem." A look of mockery flashed across the depths of Elder Feng's eyes, and he even let go of the dark green hand on the dragon phoenix's true body. "Speak." Elder Feng smiled slightly. "Die, old dog." An extremely cold, killing intent suddenly burst forth from the calm eyes of the dragon phoenix's true body. Reverse scale. The dragon phoenix's true body released the essence spirit's secret skill without hesitation. Of course, it was just a primordial spirit secret skill and could not threaten the powerhouses of the upper realm at all. At the same time, the dragon phoenix's true body activated its essence spirit frantically and condensed a peerless divine ability. The dragon phoenix's real body stretched out a finger and pointed at Elder Feng from afar. He shouted, "Fleeting youth!" An extremely horrifying force shrouded Elder Feng. There was no trace of it, no substance. Neither the naked eye nor the divine sense could see the form of this power. This was the power of time. Time had no form to begin with. Just now, the dragon phoenix's true body heard every single word that Elder Feng said clearly. Elder Feng had once said that his lifespan would increase if he could obtain the creation of Qinglian. This meant that Elder Feng did not have much lifespan left. Once this fleeting splendor was unleashed, it would definitely be a destructive force to Elder Feng. When the dragon phoenix's true body released the essence spirit's secret skill, reverse scale, Elder Feng's expression was still calm and the mockery in his eyes intensified. It was only when fleeting youth descended that Elder Feng frowned slightly. He sensed for a moment and frowned. It's the power of time. As expected of the dragon phoenix bloodline. To think that you can comprehend the power of time in the lower realm. Furthermore, this seems to be a peerless divine ability. The dragon phoenix's true body shuddered. Elder Feng's performance was a little too calm. Although Elder Feng was slightly moved by fleeting youth, he did not panic or fear at all, as though he did not take his peerless divine ability seriously at all. "Fufu." Elder Feng chuckled. "Dragon Phoenix, although your bloodline is not bad, you're merely a frog at the bottom of a well in the lower realm. Today, I'll let you witness what a true divine ability is." Before his sentence was finished, Elder Feng chanted an incantation and an extremely pure and rich energy burst forth from his body, fusing with the incantation. He pointed ahead and hollered, "Frost incantation." Frost incantation? The dragon phoenix true body was stunned when he heard that incantation. In the skies above the Dragon Bone Valley, the human emperors, Old Storyteller, Long Ran and the others were also stunned with confused expressions. The frost incantation was only one of the most ordinary minor divine abilities of the witch race. Elder Feng had actually released a minor divine ability to fight against the peerless divine ability, fleeting youth. Before the confusion in everyone's hearts dissipated, they saw an extremely shocking scene. The reverse scale floated out from the glabella of the dragon phoenix true body. Before it reached Elder Feng, it was covered in a layer of frost. Crack, crack. In the blink of an eye, cracks appeared on the reverse scale. Bang. The next moment, the reverse scale froze and turned into nothingness. Crack, crack, crack. Immediately after, an even more intense sound echoed from all around Elder Feng. A series of frost patterns appeared in the void around Elder Feng in a dense manner. Time was formless. However, when the frost incantation descended, it froze the power of time in the void and could not descend. Many emperors were stunned and dumbfounded. The dragon phoenix true body was shocked and confused as well. His peerless divine ability was completely suppressed against Elder Feng's minor divine ability. How could that be? Although the dragon phoenix true body did not know incantations, the incantation of the frost incantation that Elder Feng chanted was no different from the ones chanted by the emperors of the witch race of Tianhuang mainland. The only difference was that when Elder Feng condensed that minor divine ability, an extremely pure and rich energy burst forth from his body. It was the fusion of that energy with the frost incantation that caused the minor divine ability to transform. In fact, it even froze fleeting youth into ice. Is this the power of the upper world? A look of disappointment flashed through the eyes of the dragon phoenix true body. Even though he had used up all his trump cards, he had not been able to hurt Elder Feng at all. The difference was way too great. He had no chance of winning at all. Foo-foo. Right then, the other 6 witches of the upper world returned one after another and sneered when they saw that. This ant from the lower world wants to go against us? He's just a frog at the bottom of a well who doesn't know much. Elder Feng, in my opinion, we should just restrain his essence spirit and use the soul-searching art. There's no need to waste your breath on him. Please remember the domain name of this book. Mobile version of reading website. Chapter 1740. Elder Feng looked at the dragon phoenix true body with a mocking expression. Little beast, let me tell you, although the divine powers that you've comprehended are not bad, you can only unleash a 10,000th of the power of this divine power. The true power of divine powers comes from the upper realm. Elder Feng declared proudly, even if you ants of the lower realm have comprehended supreme divine powers, you are nothing before us. The dragon phoenix true body did not say anything. When instant youth and reverse scale were neutralized by a small divine power, he had already realized that the gap between them was not something that could be made up for by comprehending a few supreme divine powers. Even if he comprehended 3, 4, or even 10 supreme divine powers, it would be useless, let alone the 2 supreme divine powers that he had comprehended now. This was the gigantic gap between the lower realm and the upper realm that could not be crossed. That was the reason why the laws of heaven and earth were born in the billions of lesser kiliocosms to prevent the experts of the upper realm from descending. That was because once the experts of the upper realm descended, the living beings of the lower realm would not be able to stop them at all. At that time, the billions of lesser kiliocosms would be filled with killing, blood, and slavery. The power of the experts of the upper realm could even destroy a lesser kiliocosm. In a sense, the laws of heaven and earth were not only protecting the living beings of the lower realm, but also the billions of lesser kiliocosms themselves. Little beast, my patience is limited. Tell me the whereabouts of Qinglian's true body and don't force me to search your soul. Elder Feng said faintly. There was a high chance that the soul-searching technique would fail. That was the reason why Elder Feng did not attack immediately. Otherwise, the dragon phoenix true body would not have lasted until now. Old dog. Suddenly, the dragon phoenix true body laughed with a mocking expression. I don't care if you destroy this true body of mine. However, remember this, I won't die even if this dragon phoenix true body is destroyed. When my other true body ascends to the upper realm, I'll definitely look for you. I'll make you repay this debt 100 times over. Little beast, how dare you threaten me? Elder Feng's expression darkened completely and his gaze was cold. He reached out and grabbed the head of the dragon phoenix true body. Come out. Elder Feng hollered softly and his palm enveloped down with an extremely domineering power. Against that power, the dragon phoenix true body could not move at all. He could only watch helplessly as Elder Feng's palm landed on the top of his head. Snap. The sound of bones cracking could be heard in the ears of the dragon phoenix true body. The next moment, the dragon phoenix true body. The dragon phoenix true body no longer make a sound. This was because his head had been crushed into pieces by Elder Fang's bare hands. Hot blood splattered Kiliakazam above the Dragon Phoenix True Body, the Dragon King Long Body, and the other's Kiliakos body. Under this kind of power, there was only despair left in the eyes of the crowd. Even the human Emperor's seal would not be able to shatter the physical body of the forbidden Dragon Phoenix who had comprehended two supreme superpowers. Chili King. Kiliakazam B. Monkey and the others stood at the border of the north region with grief and indignation. A beautiful woman in a white dress let out a sigh upon seeing this. Kunlun ruins. Nian Chi turned his head away and could no longer bear to watch. Night Spirit growled and trembled slightly. He glared coldly at the seven figures standing proudly in the firmaments with killing intent in his eyes. Nobody could stop the experts of the witch race from the upper realm. Against Elder Fang's palm, the head of the Dragon Phoenix True Body shattered, revealing his consciousness. In his consciousness, the 11 demon kings roared furiously. However, they were shattered by the power of Elder Fang's palm. Against that immense power, the blazing ball of light that surrounded the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit shattered as well. There was a scarlet flame within the ball of light. The Dragon Phoenix essence spirit looked at the ball of flame in a daze. The final ball of light finally shattered. He had once looked forward to and imagined the scene of the ball of light shattering countless times. However, he did not expect it to be the situation today. The final divine power was nurtured within that ball of flame. The final demon king was also nurtured within that ball of flame. Comprehending that divine power meant that he had cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to perfection. However, that was useless. Even if he comprehended that divine power, he would not be able to fight against the experts of the witch race of the upper realm. The difference in strength between the two of them was way too great. Furthermore, Elder Feng would not give him the chance to comprehend that final divine power. The Dragon Phoenix essence spirit felt his vision darken. Elder Feng's palm had already descended. When his essence spirit was captured, there was only a single outcome left. Whether his soul search was successful or not, he would die in the end. It's a pity that I couldn't cultivate the final divine power or cultivate the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to perfection. The Dragon Phoenix True Body sighed. However, a vicious and resolute look flashed through the eyes of the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit. Su Zimo was never afraid of death. Furthermore, even if the Dragon Phoenix True Body was destroyed, he would not truly die. However, he could not allow others to search his soul. That would be an insult to him. He would not allow anyone to obtain Qinglian's true body or the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness from his memories. Old dog, if you want to search my soul, do it in your next life. The Dragon Phoenix essence spirit let out a final roar and an extremely terrifying power burst forth from his essence spirit. He's going to self-destruct his essence spirit. Hurry and stop him. A few experts of the upper world of witches were shocked when they sensed the fluctuation and shouted one after another. A series of dark green powers extended from Elder Feng's palm hurriedly and coiled towards the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit, wanting to stop it from self-destructing. However, it was too late. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Right in front of the living beings of the 10,000 races, the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit exploded and dissipated on the spot, turning into nothingness. The self-detonation of the essence spirit gave rise to a tremendous divine sense fluctuation. Even the surrounding void was shaken to the point that cracks appeared. The living beings of the 10,000 races were silent with sorrowful expressions. Nobody expected that the Dragon Phoenix True Body would choose such a tragic method to fight against the experts of the upper world of the witch race. The self-destruction of one's essence spirit and the dissipation of one's soul would not even enter reincarnation. Even if they knew that they were going to die, not many people would dare to self-destruct their essence spirits to destroy themselves. Damn it! Elder Feng was enraged. The fact that he did not know the whereabouts of Qinglian's true body was secondary. More importantly, the resistance of the Dragon Phoenix True Body gave him a sense of provocation. You're merely an ant of the lower world. Even if you have a taboo bloodline, you're nothing more than a beast. How dare you defy my will? Elder Feng's expression was cold as his gigantic palm enveloped down and grabbed the remnant body of the Dragon Phoenix's true body tightly. The remnant body of the Dragon Phoenix's true body was crushed by Elder Feng's palm and turned into a blood mist without a corpse. Genius 1 second. Remember this site address. Mobile version reading website. Chapter 1741. Even if you self-destruct your essence spirit, I'll still grind your body into ashes. Elder Feng said hatefully. After crushing the remnant body of the Dragon Phoenix's true body, he clenched his hands and the blood mist that filled the skies was extinguished, turning into dust. It was truly reduced to ashes. The taboo Dragon Phoenix did not have any bloodline left in this world. Kunlun ruins. Su Zimo watched everything quietly in silence. The destruction of a true body was nothing to him. The only regret he felt was that he could not cultivate the final divine power and cultivate the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness to perfection. Young master, are you all right? Nianqi was worried about Su Zimo and asked softly. I'm fine. Su Zimo shook his head gently and murmured, it's a pity that I didn't manage to see what the final demon king was. In the final vision of the Dragon Phoenix's true body, the ball of light shattered and a ball of flames appeared. However, he did not have the chance to see what demon king was nurtured within the ball of flames before his essence spirit self-destructed. Suddenly, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and his expression changed. What's wrong? Nianqi asked. Su Zimo frowned slightly with a strange expression. He merely shook his head and looked towards the place where the Dragon Phoenix's true body died. Under normal circumstances, the self-destruction of the essence spirit of the Dragon Phoenix's true body and the destruction of its body meant that it was definitely dead. It was impossible for him to have any connection with the Dragon Phoenix's true body. However, the strange thing was that when Su Zimo calmed his mind, he could still sense a hint of connection from the Dragon Phoenix's true body from afar. However, it was extremely weak and faintly discernible. Could it be that the Dragon Phoenix's true body was not dead? At the thought of that possibility, even Su Zimo was shocked. The living beings of the 10,000 races witnessed with their own eyes how the Dragon Phoenix's essence spirit protected itself and its soul dissipated. Its body was reduced to ashes by Elder Feng. How could it still be alive? Just as Su Zimo's thoughts were running wild, the connection between him and the Dragon Phoenix's true body became clearer. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he gazed into the distance. In the sky, Elder Feng's face darkened. Although the forbidden Dragon Phoenix had been reduced to ashes, it was still not enough to appease the hatred in his heart. Is there any other way to find out Qinglian's whereabouts? Elder Feng turned to look at the 4 rulers of the sorcerer tribe from Tianhuang mainland and asked coldly. A sorcerer ruler hurriedly stepped forward and said, Senior Xianwu, Araki Takashi has many close friends on this continent. As long as we capture them, we'll be able to find the whereabouts of Qinglian's real body. The witch ruler did not lower his voice when he said that. The old storyteller, Long Ran, and the other cultivators heard him clearly. Damn it! Lin Xuanji's heart sank as he cursed. When this nether witch emperor said these words, it was obvious that he wanted to slash the guillotine towards them. Where are they? Elder Feng asked. Indeed, the emperor of the witch race pointed to the Dragon Bone Valley swiftly and said in a deep voice, the human emperors over there, as well as the dragon, Kuan, and barbarian race, are all close friends of Desolate Marshal. If they can't get anything out of them, there are still some people who are close to Araki Takashi. Another sorcerer ruler pointed in the direction of the border of the north region. Senior Xianwu, don't worry. None of them will be able to escape. All right. Elder Feng nodded slowly and said expressionlessly, let's ask those emperors of the lower realm first. I don't believe that we can't find out the whereabouts of Qinglian. The 4 rulers of the sorcerer race straightened their backs and looked at the old storyteller and the other emperors above the Dragon Bone Valley with arrogant expressions. Emperor Xian, this is retribution. 8,000 years ago, you summoned the human emperor. Did you expect this day to come? The old storyteller was silent. He had no choice in the situation 1,000 years ago. If not for the descent of the human emperor, the human race would have been defeated and would not have lasted until today. However, if the human emperor had not descended on Tianhuang mainland and destroyed the Tianhuang mainland, causing the world to be incomplete and the laws to be incomplete, the experts of the upper realm would not have descended. Furthermore, the cultivation realms of the upper realm witches did not fall, and they even possessed the power of the upper realm. Capture all these ants and bring them over. I want to torture them one by one. Elder Feng said indifferently. Understood. The other 6 witches of the upper realm agreed and were about to attack. All of a sudden, a strange fluctuation came from the void beside them. Elder Feng and the others turned to look. Not far away, a flame the size of a fingertip floated in the void. It was scarlet and erratic, as though it could be extinguished by a gust of wind. A flame that could condense in the void without dissipating was definitely not ordinary. The aura of this flame seems familiar. Elder Feng frowned slightly in deep thought. It's that ball of light. Suddenly, Elder Feng recalled something. Just now, he crushed the body of the taboo dragon phoenix and a ball of light at the same time. A ball of flame floated within the ball of light and its aura was exactly the same as the ball of flame before him. Interesting. Suddenly, Elder Feng laughed. Even though the body of the taboo dragon phoenix was reduced to ashes by my palm, this ball of flame did not extinguish? In that short period of time, the ball of flame grew larger. Initially, it was only the size of a fingertip. Soon, it grew to the size of a fist and burned furiously, turning into a gigantic fireball that resembled a blazing sun. All the living beings of the myriad races widened their eyes in confusion as they watched this scene unfold before them. The power of divine powers? Suddenly, an upper realm witch said softly. Inside this huge fireball, there was actually a powerful divine ability that permeated the air. It's a supreme divine power. Elder Feng said slowly. The moment he said that, a tremendous life force burst forth from the fireball and blood chi surged as though it was about to gush out. Roar! A roar that resembled a dragon's roar and a phoenix's cry echoed through the world and shocked the 10,000 races. That was the roar of the taboo dragon phoenix. Heavens! The taboo dragon phoenix isn't dead. How is that possible? Its essence spirit has already dissipated and its body has been reduced to ashes. How is it still alive? A series of exclamations sounded from all over Tianhuang mainland. The 10,000 races were in an uproar. I've got it. In Kunlun ruins, Su Zimo murmured softly as though he had comprehended something. What's going on? Nianqi could not help but ask in surprise and joy. Su Zimo said, the 4th ball of light shattered and the final divine power was the nirvana of the immortal divine phoenix. Legend has it that the immortal divine phoenix had a powerful ability, nirvana rebirth. However, in reality, every nirvana was filled with immense danger for the divine phoenix. That was because there was a 90% chance of nirvana failing and only a 10% chance of success. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, even the divine phoenix would not use nirvana. Of course, if it could succeed in nirvana, the combat strength of the immortal divine phoenix would increase tremendously. In the final ball of light, the final demon king nurtured by the ball of flames was the immortal divine phoenix. However, there was still no joy in Su Zimo's eyes. Even if it was reborn through nirvana and comprehended the 3rd supreme divine power of the dragon phoenix true body, it would still be nothing against Elder Feng. It was just that it would die once more. End of chapter. That was equivalent to giving him an additional life. What was a heaven-defying change of fate? That was it. With the help of the nirvana divine power, Su Zimo could be reborn in flames and his combat strength would increase tremendously. There was a high chance that he could kill his enemies instead. Under normal circumstances, that was indeed the case. In the battle against the top emperors of the primordial 5 races, Even if the dragon phoenix true body did not comprehend fleeting youth, it would be killed on the spot. The dragon phoenix true body had a chance to be reborn as well. At that time, it would kill the underworld witch emperor and the others as well. Su Zimo smiled bitterly. Dai Yu had calculated everything. However, Dai Yu was not omniscient and omnipotent. Even Dai Yu would not have thought that Su Zimo would not be facing an opponent from Tianhuang mainland today, but a strong enemy from the upper world. A strong enemy that Su Zimo could not fight against. Above the firmaments. Suddenly, the dragon phoenix true body took a deep breath of air. The raging flames around him turned into streaks of fiery light that surged into his mouth and nose, fusing with his body and bloodline. The dragon phoenix true body had been reborn. Initially, this was something that should have been extremely exciting. However, be it the emperors of the human race or the living beings of the 10,000 races, all of them had heavy hearts and dark expressions. Every corner of Tianhuang mainland was shrouded in sorrow and the atmosphere was stifling. Anyone with a bit of foresight knew that even if the dragon phoenix true body was reborn, it would be useless and he would only be killed mercilessly once more. "It's good that you're alive," Elder Feng nodded with a smile. He did not waste any time with the dragon phoenix true body and released his terrifying spirit consciousness, locking down the consciousness of the dragon phoenix true body completely. With that, the dragon phoenix essence spirit did not even have a chance to self-destruct. Closing in, Elder Feng reached out and grabbed the dragon phoenix true body. Before the palm descended, the void around the dragon phoenix true body had already collapsed. All of a sudden, the blood chi within the dragon phoenix true body seemed to have sensed a tremendous stimulation and circulated on its own, bursting forth with the sound of a tsunami. His blood chi rose rapidly and reached its limits. A rich blood chi spread and menacing demon beasts with massive bodies condensed rapidly around the dragon phoenix true body. Wild Ox Demon King, Stone Bear Demon King, Anaconda Demon King, Sanguine Ape Demon King, Divine Chariot Demon King, Hell Tiger Demon King, Wind Leopard Demon King, Desolate Ocean Dragon King, Sea Calming Turtle, Golden Winged Rock, Six-Tusked Divine Elephant, Immortal Divine Phoenix. The 12 Demon Kings of the Mystic Classic of the 12 Demon Kings of the Great Wilderness appeared. They were lifelike with frightening gazes and emitted extremely terrifying auras. It was the bloodline phenomenon of the dragon phoenix true body. The 12 demon kings protected the dragon phoenix true body in the middle. It was an extremely shocking scene. However, the emperors of the human race could not bear to watch and sighed. To everyone, this was merely the final struggle of the dragon phoenix true body. The dragon phoenix true body looked at the 12 demon kings around him in a daze with a lost expression. The bloodline phenomenon this time round was not his will, it circulated and appeared on its own. "Humph!" Elder Feng hollered softly, "A trapped beast is still fighting." "Shatter!" Elder Feng merely exerted some strength in his palm and the 12 demon kings were crushed, turning into scarlet demonic chi once more. Elder Feng's palm continued to tighten. The scarlet demonic chi was still surging and changing without dissipating. In the blink of an eye, all the demonic chi condensed into a butterfly in front of Su Zimo. The butterfly was less than 10 feet long and extended a pair of blood-colored wings with 2 bright moons imprinted on them. It was like a pair of cold eyes that were glaring at Elder Feng opposite. Elder Feng suddenly felt a little uncomfortable as he felt inexplicably frustrated. It was a feeling that made him extremely displeased. "Little beast, you're still not giving up?" Elder Feng's gaze was ruthless as he sneered, "Watch me cripple your phenomenon. Who are you calling a little beast?" All of a sudden, an indifferent and cold voice resounded in midair. It was a woman's voice that was neither loud nor soft. Everyone else was confused as to who the voice belonged to. However, when Su Zimo heard that voice, his heart skipped a beat and he looked at the blood-colored butterfly in disbelief. His body began to tremble uncontrollably. Although many years had passed, he was extremely familiar with that voice. End of Chapter 1. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.